Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Monday edition, Monday Fun Day edition of the Rodcast. That's right. We got a lot to get into. National title game tonight between two top seeds in the NCAA tournament, UConn and Purdue. We'll get to that and break that down. Huge news in the college basketball world. John Calipari headed to Arkansas. I'm watching the breaking news right now on SportsCenter. So we'll get to that too, because that is huge. That'll send shockwaves all throughout college basketball. We'll dive into that coming up here in the first segment as well. Some unfortunate news on the 40 acres for one of all of our favorite players who's heading to the NFL draft, T'Vondre Sweat. We'll get to that coming up here in this segment too. The ladies, once again, women's basketball is having a moment, ladies and gentlemen, and I think most of us are bearing witness to it. A great game between Iowa and South Carolina. South Carolina wins a national championship, but it was thrilling nonetheless. So we'll get to that, talk about that a little bit. Ratings monster. I mean, you could be talking about the biggest and the most watched game in the NCAA tournament, regardless whether it's women or men. We haven't gotten those numbers in, but we'll talk about that too coming up here in this segment. Also, we'll get to your big fat poll today coming up at 6:45. We'll learn about the musically themed day of the week. We'll go behind the burnt orange curtain. Next segment, Texas had their first spring scrimmage. So we'll talk about some of the news, notes, and nuggets coming out from that first spring scrimmage. Huge recruiting weekend for the Longhorns, so they wanted to showcase the best version of themselves. So we'll talk about exactly what that looked like in their first scrimmage. Also, we'll get into a ranking of the top 10 college football head coaches. My man Sark is getting some love. And Cowboys fans, oh man, there are more rumors, conjecture about the Cowboys and one Micah Parsons. Yeah, 105.3 The Fan threw that out there on Friday. So we'll talk about it. We'll talk about what's going on between the Cowboys and Micah Parsons. A lot of drama there. We'll balance that out with some Texans talk too. So we got a lot to get into on the show. It's jam-packed. Let's not waste any time. Without further ado, let's introduce the real MVP, one of the hardest working members of the ARN family. He's got a hustler spirit, period. I don't know what he's paid, but I'm pretty damn sure the man is underpaid. Ain't no 401k for this hustler. He's a hustle man of many talents. It's my friend, co-host, and neighbor, my man Patrick Davis, y'all. What's going on, brother? How are you?
I'm doing good. Is back to work. It was a long weekend of a lot of friends were in town, and so a lot of seeing people I hadn't seen in a long time, and hanging out, doing yard work, and doing all the things you do on the weekend, and then all of a sudden it's Monday morning again. You're up and you're back at the station.
I know. Yeah, the yard work. I did some of that too. I know. Yeah, you gotta try to get it in while you can. So I did some of that. It's a big day, Patrick. It's a big day today.
It is. It is.
I didn't even mention what the biggest story. Yeah, the biggest story of the day is actually Eclipse Day.
It depends. There's two types of people right now in Austin. There is the people who are super excited for the eclipse, and there's the people who are dreading traffic and people coming into town to see the eclipse. Those are the two types of people I've seen. I don't think I fall in either camp. We work enough weird enough hours that I don't think I'm going to hit too much traffic on the drive home from the office.
Me neither. I think I'm going to be good. And when is the eclipse? Around 1?
I think it's between noon and 1, and hopefully the weather will hold off enough, and then we'll be able to see that. Before we get into it, though, let me introduce my co-host, and then we can talk all eclipse for the next 4 hours. No, it's what everybody wants to hear. My co-host, a proud alumni of DBU. He's got more papers than Dunder Mifflin and watches more film than Siskel and Ebert. He is the new Rod father of Austin Sports Radio, Mr. Rod Babers.
I appreciate the intro. Yeah, I mean, I know the eclipse is a big deal. When I was actually visiting my in-laws in Idaho, they were talking about taking a trip down to Texas because they want obviously the totality. It's the word we're learning a lot of. The totality. I guess that's when you got prime visibility or whatever for the eclipse. Obviously down here in Texas in the hill country, they have that totality that they were looking for. So yeah, they were thinking about it. They said the basically the flights had been, I mean, they were ridiculous. They said basically because of the eclipse that they were ridiculous because they were getting so much demand for those flights in the zone of totality as they're calling it, which is the hill country's right in there. So it's a thing all over the country. People are trying to get to. I'm sure they're already here, and they're having. And by the way, the grocery store said expect delays there because we usually get our groceries on the weekend. They're like expect delays, kind of like during the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Where it's like, no, we're getting a lot of people that are like Super Bowl or Thanksgiving. And we're getting a lot of people that are ordering a lot of food in bulk, I guess, for parties and whatever, camp out. I don't know, whatever the hell is going on.
You know, there's also
there's
some conspiracy theories out there too. So maybe some people get in bulk in case, you know.
So toilet paper.
I don't know,
in case there's a disaster.
Yeah, but if you
natural disaster,
I don't know. If you think the rapture is coming, I wouldn't be buying food. I'd be like, I hope I'm getting raptured. I don't want to be the guy left and then just because I feel like once you get raptured, it's free game at HEB, right?
Everything is free game. I mean, the value of everything else falls off. You're right. You need food. You need the necessities at that point. I'm with you. Food, gasoline, stuff like that. I mean, you're probably gonna need some firearms. Let's admit that. I mean, that's also you get the checklist together in case there's a disaster. Firearms and groceries are probably gonna be at the top of that list.
Something tells me though, we'll be talking about sports tomorrow morning. Something tells me.
I think so. Yeah, but it's I know it's a big deal. I don't even have the proper eyewear to observe the eclipse. No, I didn't. Well, I don't trust it. I don't trust the stuff online. I'm sorry. I don't. Where's the certification for this eyewear? That you know what? You got it from this Amazon shop. You can just wear it. There's no certification. I need certification from NASA or some type of entity. All right, that I can trust. That says, okay, you know what? We have manufactured this eyewear. It is safe for you to look at the eclipse because, hey, you know what? If you get that wrong, I'm screwed. Like, you don't trust
the ones at all the gas stations around. Every counter, you don't trust those?
No. Where's the certificate? Who is certifying this? Who is certifying this eyewear that you can just get anywhere? No, I don't trust it.
See, that's the difference between you and me. I've been handed enough drinks at bars that I have no idea what's in them. And just taking a shot or done whatever that, at this point in my life, let's just go for it.
See, I advise friends against that, especially my daughter. I'm going to advise her, like, no, don't just be drinking from strangers. But you got to trust. You have a natural trust of strangers.
I don't have a trust of strangers. I have a trust of, I don't think that there's manufacturers of these eclipse glasses that are just completely like, nah, man, it's just some tinted. Just some tinted paper. We went cheap on it.
No, I think it's kind of like, no, I don't think they have malice or bad intention. I just think incompetence and ineptitude. Yes. They think they know what they're doing and they don't. I think that's part of it. And yeah, you're right. There's some people who I think they're just, I don't know, they're just hustling. And it's like water, right? They say water comes from, they say most water is just tap water. Even the water you get in the fancy, fancy containers in the stores. Like, no, that's the same damn water that you're getting out of the tap most of the time. They just market it better and they say that it's from the regions of the Swiss Alps and all this kind of stuff. So I don't know. That's why I don't have the eyewear. I know you can probably get it, like you said, at the gas at 7-Eleven. I just don't trust it. I don't know, but where am I gonna get it where I trust it? Like who is selling the eyewear that I can trust?
That's true. You would have had to go and then get the super special one. I'm sure there's some store that has like super expensive, but do you trust the more expensive ones too? It's the same thing. It's just someone who marked up the same glasses. Yeah, it's more about where if I can go get it from a state institution, like I can go down to the Capitol and pick up the eyewear, then I'd feel better about it. I don't know why, because you're right. I don't know if I can trust the state anymore than anybody else. Anyway, that's my issue. I got trust issues, so don't worry about me. That's my problems. All right, there you go. Some eclipse talk for you. I know it's the biggest topic of the day. Also, we'll get into a little bit later on. Like I said, we'll go behind the burnt orange curtain and talk Texas spring practice. I know that's a big topic of conversation. People want some nuggets from Texas spring practice. We'll give you those next segment. My man Patrick momentarily will get to your Horn headlines. And then after that, we'll talk about what I think is, we'll get into the national title game and preview that because we got some time, and we'll review what happened with the women's national title game too. Big win for South Carolina. But the John Calipari news, is that shocking to you? Is that not totally, but
surprising?
I think it's much more of the future of college basketball until there's a few changes. This is the future. Okay. So we'll get more into it, but yeah, this is the future right now.
Yeah, I think that's big. I mean, that's big news to me. I'm like, man, that's surprising at the least, but I think even shocking to some. Okay, we'll get to that here. Let's get to the Horn headlines first. I have my man Patrick educate you and inform you and us of the big headlines of the day on our Horn headlines.
Your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rental and Lawn Equipment. The NCAA men's basketball championship game is set after both favorites were able to pull away in the second half to secure their trip. Purdue's Zach Edey led the way for the Boilermakers 63-50 win over NC State, and Alabama was not able to keep up their hot shooting as UConn dominated the final 10 minutes winning 86-72. Purdue and UConn will face off tonight at 8:20. And in the women's tournament, the Dawn Staley-led South Carolina Gamecocks won their third national title, stopping Caitlin Clark in Iowa 87-75. Clark was able to put up 30 points, but only shot 35% from the field to do it. Texas baseball dropped their series to BYU over the weekend. Pitching was once again a problem, with no pitchers Thursday or Saturday lasting more than 3 innings. Jalen Flores was able to add 2 more home runs to his season total over the series. Texas will play a home and away against Texas State Tuesday and Wednesday this week. Texas softball got a hard-fought 2-1 series victory over the number 1 Oklahoma Sooners over the weekend. Texas was able to get 2 runs in the 4th and on both Saturday and Sunday to hold on to get their first series victory over the Sooners since 2009. Freshman Katie Stewart provided a needed boost with 3 RBIs in the series, including a home run to take the lead on Sunday. Texas will be back in action Wednesday against Texas State. In the NBA, the Mavericks were able to edge out 2 wins over Golden State and Houston. Luka Doncic missed the game against the Warriors, but returned for the overtime victory against the Rockets. Irving put up 48 points on Sunday, with Luka adding 37 more. With the Clippers also winning over the weekend, the Mavs weren't able to make up any ground on the 4 seed in the West, with only 1 week to go in the season. And in Major League Baseball, the Rangers took games 1 and 2 of their series against the Astros in a lopsided fashion. The Astros were able to bounce back on Sunday behind 6 more innings of only 1-hit pitching from Roniel Blanco. The 1 hit came, of course, from Adolis Garcia, who already has 5 RBIs and a home run in the series, with the final game being played tonight, with pregame starting at 6:30 right here on the Horn. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for those Horn headlines. Yeah, thank you. We're thankful that the Astros could make it at least interesting, because those first 2 games.
Yes.
Yeah, the Rangers are putting in. We'll have a Rangers report as well.
Yes.
Coming up a little bit later on in the show. Yeah, they were putting. I thought they were going to end up, kind of threatening to break out the brooms on the Astros.
Blanco again, man. Blanco, 15 innings now, 1 hit.
It's something about the Astros, man. They know how to. They got an eye for pitching. They can find pitching. I mean, they find the best value and best deals on pitching in Major League Baseball, and they just have for the last few years. I mean, that's another one. Where'd he come from? Where did Roniel Blanco come from?
I mean, and the dude's 30 years old. It's not like you found a 22-year-old and, oh, my God, how do we get him? But he found a 30-year-old. You come in there, and he's been pitching lights out. It's
unbelievable.
But, yeah, that was much needed, because the Rangers were just going off there for the first 2 games. We'll see if they'll be able to hold it off. I know Verlander did a rehab assignment over the weekend, so maybe get Verlander back will help out some of that pitching. But, yeah, Rangers looking really good right now.
Rangers looking really good. Astros 3-7. So
yes,
not good.
Not looking very good.
Yeah. But Roniel Blanco, you're right, man. Talk about a bright spot. He is exactly that for the Astros right now, pitching some unbelievable baseball. Okay, let's get to this John Calipari story, and then we'll work on. We got time to preview the men, so we'll get to previewing the men on the show at one point, or even later on this segment. We will talk about what the women did last night as well. I thought that was a really phenomenal game between Iowa and South Carolina. And we'll also get to the unfortunate news about T'Vondre Sweat. For those who did not hear, over the weekend, he was arrested for DWI. He's been charged for the DWI, so he's working his way through that. And, of course, that will affect his draft stock in a negative way. Let's talk about the John Calipari news, though. This broke overnight, basically.
Yes.
Arkansas, and remember, Arkansas was looking for a head coach because Eric Musselman went to USC. So they've been looking for a head coach.
USC's coach went to SMU.
Yeah, yes. So we got the coaching carousel. And at one point, Chris Beard was, I believe, considered a candidate for this Arkansas job, right?
I could believe that. Yeah, I could believe that. But,
he was at one point. Yeah. But then his name was, I think that obviously didn't last very long. So his name was out of it. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it was Jerome Tang was another name that was mentioned as a candidate for it. But either way, now they've got their guy. John Calipari is believed to be agreeing to and signing a 5-year deal with the Arkansas Razorbacks to be their next head coach. He's coming off a disappointing season and a obviously disappointing postseason. They lost in the first round of the SEC tournament to A&M, lost in the first round of the NCAA tournament, upset by Oakland, a 14 seed, and they've only had 1 tournament win in the last 5 years. So, of course, we know that he's an all-time great coach. 3 Final Fours there, Kentucky, 1 national title. I think it was 410 and 123 and something like that. But ultimately, it's a what have you done for me lately kind of league, especially when you're at a basketball school, just like you would be at a football school. Imagine Texas or somewhere like that. So there's been a lot of pressure on him, and John Calipari deciding, hey man, I'm going somewhere where he believes maybe he's got his message isn't worn thin, and maybe he'll be appreciated there more. There's also saying he has ties to the Tyson family, John Tyson, the billionaire heir to the Tyson Foods fortune, and that they are really close, and that sugar daddy was maybe one of the main reasons as well that he promised him, hey man, I'll give you all the NIL support you could ever need.
Yeah.
And that maybe that's a reason as well.
No, it's 100% a reason. I mean, the reason all these guys move is because of donors. That's the reality of it. Is I think you get to a place, you start doing well, you have a couple of seasons. Eric Musselman probably would have stayed at Arkansas if it wasn't that he goes back out and says, well, I want to get these recruits. And if I want to get these recruits, I have to have some money behind it. We have to have the NIL to be able to get these recruits to come, because even if the other schools may be bluffing, they're promising them a lot of money. And, I need 5 to 6, 7 guys that are going to be getting NIL money. And I just have to be able to get that money. And I think at Kentucky, after another loss, Calipari got to the point where he said, this is not, guys are all coming for my head. They don't want to give me money. They're trying to cut me off because I'm not winning every single season, but they don't realize because they don't want to support the program means I can't build the program. So it always ends up with, you don't want to actually build a program. You want to win every season. And that's just not how college basketball works. It has never worked that way. It will never work that way. So it's frustrating as a college basketball fan and a fan of basketball of how it's done to continue to have more and more people that want to it's always win now. And if I throw enough money at it, we should be able to win now. That's not necessarily always the case. You have to be able to build other pieces. So it's frustrating to see it move, that basically everyone now is in the place where a coach gets to where Eric Musselman was a very hot guy, a very hot topic. They had a terrible season this year. Arkansas did just a really bad season. However, he sees the USC job there. He knows that he's having trouble with Arkansas donors. They want him out because he had a bad season, even though he's one of the hottest coaching prospects, that he had a bad season. So they say, screw it. We don't care what you did in the past. You didn't win this season, so you must be a bad coach. And then John Calipari has years of test. And I get, especially if you say he's going there and it's once he has ties to Tyson and he has the ability to get easy money there, then he'll be there. But if he doesn't win in 3 to 4 years,
same thing,
same thing. And it's just a cycle where I think you really have to sit back. And I mean, certain schools are still going to do it and sit back and say, give them a little bit of time. And when things go down, you have to get it out. Calipari's tenure with Kentucky was going to be on a short term. We knew that he was getting pushed every single season. People are getting more and more upset. We know that Kentucky was always a school that had a little bit of money behind it. Even before NIL, they had some money behind it.
Yeah.
And when you cut that off, it just becomes harder and harder to create a program in today's work. I mean, that's what I was having the conversation with somebody the other night talking about UConn. And it's a conversation that's really weird about this UConn team, that for whatever reason, people don't realize that this is a very highly paid UConn team as well. That they're able.
I saw a stat about that. I'm gonna bring it up. Good point.
And so you go, well, UConn, man, they're about fundamentals. And you're like, but they bought the best players too. Like
they're fundamentally funded, well funded.
Yes, so these programs that are really good at basketball, you have to have a lot of money, you have to have a good coach, you have to have a lot of things. But there's more to there is other factors in it. And there's this belief that a lot of guys, if you get the right coach in, the money isn't as important. The money is always going to be important, and the good coaches know that. And so they say, if you hire me, that's great. I still need to be one of the top 5 funded teams in this country to compete every single season. And it's rough, but that's just the way it is right now.
It's still, and you're right about that, even more so because of NIL. It was always about the money, but now it is even more so. I think it's even more emphasized when you're talking about coaches and the players. Here's a stat for you. UConn is the only FBS public school in the Sportico database, so I'll just throw that out there, that spends more money on basketball than football. And they win national titles in women's basketball and in men's basketball.
Yes.
Hell, they may end up winning back-to-back. So to your point, they are fundamentally well-funded as but that's a basketball school too. And it's interesting. I'll throw this out there because I think it's affecting not only college basketball, but college football. When you see schools able to poach coaches from blue blood institutions, and these places like Notre Dame, places like Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And they're able to do that because Lincoln Riley says, "Nah, man, Oklahoma's limited in the NIL space. USC has a higher ceiling in the NIL space. I'm going there because in the future, where NIL is the law of the land, I got to go where the money is and where there's more money. Even Oklahoma, in terms of football, blue blood, college football, blue bloods, is among the top 5 best programs all time. It wasn't like it fell off; it was still really damn good." But he was looking for the upside. Same thing with Brian Kelly going to LSU. LSU back in the day could never poach a Notre Dame head coach like that. But Brian Kelly's looking at it and saying, well, here at Notre Dame, I'm limited. I'm limited in the NIL space here at Notre Dame. I'm also limited money-wise. Obviously, I would say it's just there are not limitations, but I think difficulty in getting all the guys in school because they think of themselves academically on a higher tier than other schools as well. So there is that as an added layer of difficulty, a degree of difficulty for a head coach. So he went to LSU, where not only is it easier to bring in athletes, but there is more big money to support college football and what he wants to do. And I think your point is, I think, valid, no doubt about it, that this is now affecting college basketball as well. And you got to have sugar daddies. You got to have sugar mamas too, whatever the money comes from. But you're millionaires and you're billionaires. Directives and collectives, they're more important than they've ever been. We were talking to, shout out to my man, Nick Shuley, who's going to come on for Setlist ATX on Friday. But we do the Third and Longhorns podcast with my man Fozzie Whitaker and Alex Okafor and, Jeremy Hills and Derek Johnson. That's a great crew. And we had Chuck Harris on, the executive director of the Texas Exes. And we were talking about the powerful network that is the Texas Exes and the wealth and affluence with that group and the pride that they want to give back to the university. And now it is a force. And Texas still hasn't really weaponized it like they need to in the United States because it's just so brand new. But they're probably a leader. They are a leader in that space. You know what? 570,000 alumni worldwide. And how many of those are millionaires and billionaires willing to give back? And here's my question too about Arkansas. Arkansas should be more of a leader in the NIL space. Tyson Foods, the Walmart family, Jerry freaking Jones. Dude, just them 3 sugar daddies right there should keep you.
Yeah.
You should be not only afloat, you should be right there competing with the big dogs in NIL. Walmart, Tyson Foods, Jerry, this is old money. Old money, man. I mean, this is some of the wealthiest people in this world. And they're Arkansas people of all. Nothing against Arkansas, but they are. They went to Arkansas.
I mean, something against Arkansas. But
but you get my point though. Why the hell are they struggling in Arkansas to compete in the NIL space? That's crazy.
No, but that's not. But it's 100% my point though, because it's all about what can you do for me right now, and I pay for results. I don't pay to get results. I pay for results. You have to achieve, and then I will give you money to achieve more. And that's much more the thinking in today's NIL game with a lot of these, a lot of donors and a lot of, where the narrative used to be able to be shifted better, that you had ADs in schools that could shift the narrative a little bit more in the public narrative and shift what the donors were hearing and shift how the donors were going to think about things. And now with the 24/7 sports news cycle and everything else, and social media is a big part of it, people get in their bubbles. And every time you lose, I mean, you look at Purdue last year. Purdue last year lost in the first round of the tournament. If they wanted to cut funding and not pay for guys, they wanted to say Zach Edey wasn't going to get paid to come back to Purdue. They wanted to say that we weren't going to, we're not going to give Matt Painter. We should get rid of Matt Painter too because we lost in the first round and underperformed. They're not in the national title game right now. So you have to take some of these losses and understand you're not going to win every single year. And UConn is one too. They'll tail off at a point, and everyone will then say Dan Hurley's lost it, and then he'll come back and be good again because UConn's always good. But it just is the way of the game that now it just seems that every single time we see a coach struggle for 2 or 3 years, instead of trying to figure out the way to get back up on it. And I get Calipari is kind of a different example of it. I think Eric Musselman thing was more shocking to me that he bailed out of Arkansas. As you said, there's money there. It's a little bit lower of expectations. To then go to USC where it's, you're going to the Big Ten now. It just seems a weird, that's not a job that I necessarily would love to go to right now. So that one surprised me a bit more. And then Calipari going to Arkansas was, I think he just saw the writing on the wall and didn't want to get fired. And he knew he was going to be, that he knew if he didn't, because if you do get knocked out in the first round, then you say, well, it's really Sweet 16 or I'm gone. If I don't make the second weekend, I'm completely gone. And they'd really like me to get to an Elite Eight or Final Four. So you just have to ramp those expectations up. And then when you don't necessarily have the money and you get more guys in the NBA, but you're trying to develop some, and the guys that you sat on the bench to develop last year, they're now waiting for a check to stay with Kentucky, and you lose guys you developed and recruited and all of that over the offseason in college basketball. Now, it's tough. I get it. It's just, as a fan of it, as a fan of basketball and a fan of the sport, it can be frustrating that it's people complaining that the kids get paid too much, which they probably do at points, and there needs to be regulations on it. But then on the flip side, the adults in the conversation also act like children in it. And everyone just freaks out every time, like there should be 65 national champions a year. And there's one. It's not going to be everybody's year every year. There's one out of everybody. So you have to sometimes walk away and say, did we get better? Are we working in the right direction? Did we still, did we win a tournament game? That's a big one. If you can get into the tournament every year, you can win a game. I get it gets frustrating, but you're going the right path versus some of these other programs. And Eric Musselman, just again, was doing really well and everybody was on him. And then this year was really bad, still gets to move up and go to USC. That one surprised me more than Calipari. The Calipari one is surprising because you would have expected him to try and go to another blue blood or another bigger school.
It said Arkansas was able to pull him, but makes sense now.
But I think he also knows he can go
attached.
Yeah, and he knows he can stay in the SEC. He knows the teams. He doesn't have to learn new teams, and he can also basically guarantee himself at least 3 or 4 more years of a good paycheck.
Pete Nakos of 0-3, who covers NIL, and he also covers obviously NIL in college basketball. He said, speaking with a source, John Calipari would have all the NIL cash he wants, and Arkansas is already putting plans in place. So that's a big part. And the next discussion, of course, is who takes over for him at Kentucky. There are 5 or 6 names that have come up already in discussion about this. And this story is less than 12 hours old or something like that. He said Kentucky names to watch would probably be Nate Oates, Scott Drew, some Billy Donovan, Bruce Pearl. These are from Jeff Goodman. Others say Dan Hurley is a name they should be thinking about. Jay Wright is thrown out there too. What are your thoughts about a replacement? Oh, and also this little nugget too. I saw this from KY Sports Radio, Kentucky Sports Radio, from Matt Jones. One of the things to remember is that Calipari has no buyout. If he leaves, he can go, and Arkansas would owe Kentucky no money, but Kentucky wouldn't have to pay the rest of his contract.
Yeah,
that's crazy. He's got a good agent.
Yeah, no, he was. I think, but that was the deal again. This Calipari and Kentucky relationship has been not great for a while now. That's why it's not fully surprising, because again, they expect a national championship every single year in Kentucky, or at least in the getting there. And they were in the conversation before the tournament. You lose in the first round, that's disappointing. I get it, but and I'll say it's funny because again, every coaching list starts with, well, we should go get whoever wins the national championship. Every single team in the country thinks that that's a possibility. They should do good. Jay Wright, I'd be surprised. He has said multiple times that he does not want to come back to coaching, that he's done with it. I don't see why Dan Hurley would leave UConn. I don't. There's no real reason for him to do it. He's doing just fine there.
Scott Drew.
Scott Drew, I know that he's said multiple times that he doesn't want to leave Baylor because he's got himself set up. And a similar thing is, I know, and we got a text today, Kentucky gets a lot of money, but the problem was that money started to go to football. And you have all that NIL money, and then it starts to go to football. And Calipari goes, no, we're a basketball school. We're a basketball school. And they go, well, we're competing, and there's more money in football. So why don't we go win? And that Kentucky team's been getting better. The Kentucky football team has started to compete a little bit now.
Arkansas is supposed to be a football school. It's supposed to be.
I know, I get that, but I'm saying that if you see that money and the money shifts from, all right, man, $5 million more going that way, and here's another $5 million that's going that way to football. That's why you walk away. Now they could try and get reinvested, reinvigorated with a new coach. Nate Oates, he just signed a new deal with Alabama. So I doubt that he would be the guy to walk over there and stay in the SEC after what he's been able to do there. I don't know if he would. It's possible. Scott Drew, I think, has himself a really good life in Waco, and it would probably take a little bit to pull him away because he's the man.
Yeah. Well,
Like, he can do whatever he wants. He basically ran Kim Mulkey out of town because of how much success he was having at the men's program.
Yeah, he built it.
And so why would he want to? So that's the thing, is you have to be able to find a coach that's ready to come in there, ready to get out of their situation. That's more of what you got to find to replace him.
No, it's going to be interesting to see this coaching carousel where it ends up, where it stops, because right now it is spinning. And John Calipari to Arkansas, definitely the most surprising move yet. All right, so we'll get back to some college basketball discussion. We'll table the T'Vondre Sweat conversation when we go behind the burn orange curtain next segment. We'll do that. Also, we'll dive into some spring practice news, notes, and nuggets at their first scrimmage over the weekend. So we'll talk Texas football coming up next when we go behind the burnt orange curtain. Coming right back. This is the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Vapors, coming right back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Austin is a great city, one of the best cities in the country. That's why people keep moving here. That usually makes the traffic pretty bad. Not that bad today. But as the city continues to grow and thrive, so do our friends over at Ironworkers Local Union 482. Many of the iconic landmarks that we love in this city were created and built by the hands and the skilled craftsmanship of Ironworkers Local Union 482, like the Pennybacker Bridge and DKR Stadium. The folks over at Ironworkers Local 482 don't just go to the office, they build it. So if you're looking for an exciting employment opportunity, or if you want a refreshing career change, you can become a valued member of this prestigious organization, Ironworkers Local Union 482. Right now, they're hiring over 3,000 people for a huge project right here in Central Texas. And they're offering competitive wages, competitive benefits, and a pension plan. They even offer training for unskilled labor through their apprenticeship program. So become a member of Ironworkers Local 482 and take pride in the type of teamwork and craftsmanship that help shape the future of our great city. So maximize your potential and accept the challenge of becoming the best version of yourself by going online to inquire, and you can apply at ironworkers482.org. That's ironworkers482.org. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to go behind the burnt orange curtain, talk some Texas football. First, the unfortunate news over the weekend: T'Vondre Sweat, the defensive tackle, who is projected to be at least a second-round pick, could be drafted even higher. This will certainly hurt his draft stock. T'Vondre Sweat was booked at 2:12 p.m. Actually, 2:12 p.m. yesterday, and booked for a DWI charge by the Austin Police Department. A spokesman for the APD, Kristen Dark, said that he was booked at 212 off of I-35 in North Austin. Bond was set at 3,000. I think obviously he's already been released. There's actually footage of him being released and the media asking him questions as he's walking to his car. So that didn't take long for him. It is going to hurt his draft stock. I don't know how much. I don't think it'll hurt his draft stock a lot. Dane Brugler put out this tweet about, I don't know, 2 or 3 hours after the news broke. Said, according to a team source, Sweat has been upfront with NFL teams about his partying as an underclassman, and made it a point of emphasis in interviews that it was all in the past. Obviously, today's incident, 3 weeks from the NFL draft, won't help answer any concerns with teams. So, Dane Brugler's implying that it was an issue. It's probably on the scouting report for him anyway, that he likes to party a lot. So this will probably hurt his draft stock. And some teams, I don't know if they'll take him off the board. They may drop him down on their board. So he'll be a great value some other team, but he's already considered a second round pick. I think he'll stay somewhere considered a second round pick. This may take him from the top of the second round, early in the second round, till later in the second round. I still don't think he drops out of the second round, even with the DWI charge. It's unfortunate at this point. T'Vondre, nobody should be driving while intoxicated, by the way. Too many options these days. Ride share, do something. All right, call a friend. Prepare to have a good time, especially now with the eclipse. I know a lot of y'all going to be partying. Make sure, you're calling the ride share. Make sure you being responsible about things. But he's got so much to lose. And you got the NFL draft, upon you got 3 more weeks. And not saying after that, that's when you be irresponsible. But at least until that time, you want to make sure your draft stock is as high as possible. This obviously not helping T'Vondre Sweat.
No, it does not help. I would think, though, that there's kind of a group of teams that were, interested and really would like this guy. I think there was a group of teams that probably have him lower on their board because either the weight, either because of the years that he wasn't as productive before, either because they maybe just don't want, or they already have a run stopper. They feel they don't need that position. It was probably only half of the teams in the league who are looking at him as a second round pick, and everybody else maybe that third, fourth. He probably loses a couple more of those teams through this, but the same teams that were looking and need that position probably still looking at him around the same time. And the only thing is you may see he may drop a little bit more because somebody just feels they could get him for a better value later on. I don't know how much it would be
exactly right.
that they necessarily don't want him anymore. They're just trying to get the premium value they can. So if they can use this to slide him down, then they gladly get a high second round talent late in the second round.
Yeah. That's what I think this, unfortunately, some teams are going to be thrilled about this. They're going to love it. It's going to be like, yes, it's exactly what we wanted. Need this guy to drop down a little bit so that, now we can get him at a cheaper cost pretty much. So it's bad for T'Vondre Sweat, but it's some teams, they're going to look at it. The upside of it is, hey, man, you get great value. A guy potentially that could be a first round value. Remember Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Senior Bowl, says he believes he's a first round pick. It should be a first round pick. So it all depends on what you need. And he's so unique because he's one of the largest human beings at the combine that some teams are going to see him as an ideal fit for their system, to play that zero technique, to play the one technique. So obviously elite against the pass rush, so dominant against the pass rush. Against the rushing, obviously against rushing teams, and as a run defender, but also can be an elite pass rusher for you too. And if he ends up doing that, and right now, I remember I told you guys, D tackle is a premium position in the NFL now. At least if you look at the money that is spent on D tackle, especially guys who can do both, can be a dominant run stuffer, but also an elite pass rusher. And I think Byron Murphy and T'Vondre Sweat both have that kind of ceiling. Those guys are getting paid a lot of money in the NFL right now. All right, let's go to the practice reports here from Texas's first spring scrimmage over the weekend. Now, this was a big recruiting weekend, so a lot of these nuggets actually are coming from recruits over there at On Texas Football. Shout out to my man Bobby Burton and the crew and CJ Vogel. Go to On Texas Football, the YouTube channel, ontexasfootball.com. They were talking to a lot of recruits. As a matter of fact, they talked to a Racine Guillory Jr. Running back who was at practice, and talked to a lot of other guys because the recruits are out there watching practice. They actually got a commitment from a running back, Ricky Stewart, who was so excited about what he saw at practice from the running backs, allegedly. All right, that he decided to commit on the spot. He committed to my man Jerry Hamilton, actually. So shout out to Jerry Hamilton, and one of the guys who got a lot of love from some of the reports coming out of the scrimmage was Jaden Blue. Apparently, Jaden Blue looked really, really good. And also Trey Wisner was getting some love too from some of these scrimmage reports. But apparently, Jaden Blue was one of the really, really impressive players out there. He scored multiple times during the 11-on-11 scrimmage, also in red zone, which Texas practiced a lot of or scrimmaged a lot of, was their red zone situations. And it sounds like Jaden Blue, not just the perimeter runs and breaking runs to the outside, which we know he can do because he's got elite speed, but from what I'm told, running in between the tackles, Patrick, really well. This guy that's actually with some of the power concepts duo, which Texas likes to run a lot of, with some of the power and the gap schemes, that he's also got great vision. And he's got really good footwork and running in between the tackles. We know he's got the speed to run outside of them, but now I'm hearing that he's got the quickness, the change of direction, the feet, and the vision to run in between the tackles on those inside zone calls and some of those power and gap schemes.
No, you just love to hear that you've got that backfield again, that you have two guys that you feel you can really trust going into the season. You know, you got some young guys that may be able to come up. But I know going into last season where you didn't really know you had anybody, you knew you had good players, but I don't think you knew you had even one guy that was going to be, people were asking about if there was going to be 1,000-yard rusher because Sark always gets his 1,000-yard rusher. It's a big question we got all last offseason and all in the beginning of the season last year. I think this year you think, okay, there's two guys that are in that conversation now that could really easily step up. And you're not losing something when one guy comes off the field, and it's going to push again that running back room that's been so good. The more guys you can have in it that can step up, the more that you can push everybody in that room to be better to get onto the field.
Yeah, no, that room is, like I said, it's deep. I mean, we're not even talking about, we got Jaden Blue and we're talking about CJ Baxter, but the young guys they got coming up, Jared Gibson and Christian Clark, have been really impressive. They're getting a lot of rave reviews. And then you got Trey Wisner thrown in there. We all forget about Savion Red. What is he going to be? Is he going to be some Frankenstein monster of a fullback, a modern age fullback for Sark? We have no idea what's going on. I mean, they are deep there at running back, which I expect to see more of that pony package, just saying, but I won't belabor the point because I know I talk about that a lot. All right, let's get back to some of these scrimmage notes here. Apparently also, remember, we've been talking about that defensive side of the ball, the kind of the guts of the defense, right? The central nervous system of the defense, that off-ball linebacker position, opposite Anthony Hill, also the interior D-line position. We talked about Devondre Sweat and Byron Murphy earlier, and those guys leaving, going to leave a bit of a void there. How you're going to feel that with depth in the interior D-line. But one of the spots, that off-ball linebacker opposite Anthony Hill, honestly, it may be David Benda right now as the front runner leading the competition. I'm told that he also, the only sixth-year senior on your roster right now, and your most experienced linebacker, had a really strong showing in the scrimmage, especially in 11-on-11 drills. Reportedly, when he was blitzing from the off-ball linebacker position, looked really good and applied some really effective pressure on the opposing quarterbacks. So David Bender right now looks to be the leader in the clubhouse for that competition for the off-ball linebacker spot. They still got to find somebody else if they want to move Anthony Hill around, but his veteran leadership, he knows the system. And this is a guy, kind of reminds me of like a Christian Clark that, I don't know, and I'm not saying that he's not Christian Clark, sorry, Christian Jones, excuse me. Kind of reminds me of Christian Jones. And I don't think David Bender, I don't think he has an NFL ceiling like a Christian Jones, but someone who really is kind of a program guy who is really transformed their body since they've been here. Had a chance to leave and passed on that because either they really want to be here at Texas or believe that they could work their way into the starting rotation, which they did. He did a little bit last year, but right now it looks like he may be potentially the frontline starter for that off-ball linebacker position opposite Anthony Hill. So good for Bender working his butt off to try to get some reps, man, to get some play. And looks like right now it's paying off for him.
Yeah, I mean, to see this, it's always nice to see that of a guy stick around and keep working hard to get to an opportunity where it finally starts to pay off a little bit more. We saw him a little bit more last season be able to be used, but yeah, to be a frontline starter, to at least set the bar early in the season that if you want to come get this position, this is how hard you have to work. I put in 6 years, so you better start working now. I think it's a good look for Texas. I think it's good for David Benda. And you want to see that, veteran leadership on the field is not a bad thing on the defensive end.
That's right. Yeah. No, they need it too. And it looks like he's going to be one of those guys. And speaking of the defense, we have been very complimentary of the edge defenders, saying that's going to be a strength for Texas. Reportedly, Colin Simmons had a big day in the scrimmage. Apparently, he had a sack in the scrimmage. So he looked really, really good. Also, Baron Sorrell and Trey Moore specifically got shout outs and reportedly looked really, really good coming from the edges and made some impact plays in the scrimmage too. So we've talked about the edges. If Baron Terrell and Ethan Burke and Trey Moore and a young Colin Simmons can really turn the edge position into a strength for Texas this year, that's where the pressure is going to come from. Last year, the pressure came from the interior, which are really deep defensive tackle position, the best D tackle duo in all of college football. This year, it's going to come from the edges, from the outside, with Baron Terrell and Trey Moore and Colin Simmons, and we just started moving Anthony Hill out there at times, right? Ethan Burke, and we didn't even talk about Justice Finkley. He kind of gets lost in the shuffle. They got a lot of bodies to throw at teams from the edge this year, and they're already getting some love in the reports coming out of the scrimmage. Offense-wise, Quinn Ewers and Richard and Arch Manning both put on shows at the scrimmage. They look good in red zone, reportedly, which is, I think, a point of emphasis. The red zone portion of the scrimmage, U.S. had good connections with Gunnar Helm, Jonte Cook. And, yeah, I can continue to hear things about Ryan Wingo that they're not going to be able to keep Ryan Wingo off the field. That Ryan Wingo just time after time continues to make plays. Now, he may hit a freshman wall or something like that, but early on, his name continues to pop up. And Sark himself, when Sark was asked, hey, which one of these true freshmen looks good? He did not want to answer that question, but he said Ryan Wingo. At the end, he said Ryan Wingo looks like he's a guy that he doesn't look like a freshman. Like, he's mature beyond his years. He's an old soul.
Yeah.
And he hadn't even really learned how to run routes yet. He's just doing this kind of patching off just kind of raw athleticism. Wait till this guy really starts to refine his route running.
Yeah, and I think this year is the fun thing you could see in certain games is, him coming out on the field and maybe not getting the respect yet because, you still have to. You have to guard Isaiah Bond and Jonte Cook and whoever else Texas has on the field. Mm-hmm. But if you put a Ryan Wingo out there and what you're hearing the reports and they put the DB3, DB4 on the depth chart on Ryan Wingo, he may not be able to go beat what DB1 right now. He may not be able to beat the best guy on the, but if you're not helping with the safety and you got a guy who's a little bit lower on the depth chart trying to guard him, that's how you get really big explosive plays because you put a guy who just talent-wise is off the charts better than who he's going to be up against. There could be a few times this game you put him in there strategically. They don't necessarily line up to him because he's in their scouting report, but he's not in their scouting report as a guy who's done a ton. And they say he's a true freshman. He may not be able to come in and change a game, and he can change a game.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. It seems like that wide receiver rotation, and I've said it before, I think he's going to expand it this year. From what I'm hearing right now, Ryan Wingo is going to be a part of it. And if that's the case, DeAndre Moore is going to be a part of it. And then you add Bond. And then you talk about Golden. Bowden is not even on campus yet, who's coming from Oregon State. So I think, and then Jonte Cook, I do think you're going to be at 4, maybe even 5 guys potentially in that wide receiver rotation and a regular wide receiver rotation. So there you go. Some practice, some scrimmage notes from spring practice. The Longhorns reportedly had a good spring practice. Not a balance, right? You didn't have too much dominance on one side of the ball or the other.
Yeah. That's
honestly what you want. You want spring practice reports coming out that defense made some plays. Offense won their fair share, because if it comes out that one side of the ball dominated the other, that's a problem, because usually that means that Then it gives you a distorted view and perception of your team because either one side of the ball is really, really bad, or maybe one side of the ball is just really, really elite. You really don't know. Here, Texas getting a lot of competition and a lot of plays being made in all phases of the game. Didn't hear much about special teams. I'll try to find some news notes and nuggets on that. All right, there you go. That's a little breakdown of Texas spring practice. We come back. We'll have the big fat poll of the day from my man Patrick Davis, and we'll also find out what the musically themed day of the week is. Always a fun time right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. We all love living here in Austin. If you're a homeowner here in Austin, then you're pretty lucky. That means you own some really valuable real estate. But one of the downsides about owning that valuable real estate is that the property taxes are really high. Right? So if you're an Austinite, you understand my pain because you share the same frustration, and you've probably been complaining and trying to figure out how a way to lower those property taxes. Well, I can tell you right now, our friends over at Ownwell, they provide you with a great resource to do so. Ownwell believes that when it comes to paying property tax, you should only pay what's fair. And you can sign up really easy. It takes no time at all. Sign up in under 3 minutes. And their team of local experts in cutting edge technology can start saving you money with no upfront cost, which means you got nothing to lose, but you got everything to gain. Think about what you could do with that extra money. Put that money back into your home, right, to increase the property value of it. You can also, hey, put more money back into your savings. I just had a daughter, so right now, putting money into a savings account to make sure that I got money for that rainy day is always top of mind. You can do so many things. Maybe you need a new car. Maybe that's something that you can pay off some debt with. There's so many things you can do with that extra money. And my friends at Ownwell, they can help you out with that process. Our friends at Ownwell, they do a great job. 86% of Ownwell's customers save on their property taxes. You can put that money back into your own pocket. Hundreds of thousands of happy customers and 5-star reviews. They can guarantee the customer satisfaction of my friends over at Ownwell. They do a great job. Ownwell handles everything from start to finish, and they deliver top results with an average savings of over $1,100. Local tax experts backed by cutting edge technology and the best in class customer support help you save money every year and stay updated throughout the entire process. No upfront cost, folks. Savings are free guarantee. All right. So if you don't save, you don't pay. That's how it works with Ownwell. So save money on your property taxes with Ownwell. Sign up in less than 3 minutes and start your your protest today at ownwell.com. That's OWNWELL. That's ownwell.com.
Back in the Rodcast on a Monday morning. It is a smooth soul Monday, getting you ready for the week of fun. Hopefully, most of you are taking a little break today to enjoy the eclipse and don't have to work a full day or not working at all, taking the day off, enjoying yourself on a Monday. Always good to get a short week. A 3-day weekend is always nice. So we hope you enjoy that. A little smooth soul Monday, though, to get your week started here on the Rodcast. Let's get to the big fat poll today. Text lines open 512-447-3776.
Patrick's big fat poll of the day on the horn.
Big fat poll of the day today. I was thinking about this. This is an interesting piece I was looking at over the weekend. We know Caitlin Clark is now going to the NBA. There's a lot of talk about her being one of the most anticipated rookies to enter a sport in a long time, especially WNBA, probably the most anticipated rookie ever. And so I wanted to ask you guys a question. With a lot of these players that are now anticipated, a lot of these players that have, are viewed in different ways, and some thought they will be great, some that people think that will underperform. I want to ask you, which rookie are you most interested in seeing next season? This is for a lot of sports. So it can be Caitlin Clark that you're most interested in seeing what she does at the WNBA level. It could be Caleb Williams, that if you want to see if he's going number 1 overall, does Caleb Williams work in the NFL? Do you want to see that? It could be Zach Edey and what he does at 7'4", could win a national championship tonight. Do you want to see what Zach Edey does in the NBA? Does his game translate? Could it be that? If you're a Texas fan, and we know this is not a national conversation, but a Texas fan, you think Jonathan Brooks maybe goes to the Cowboy? You're interested in seeing what Jonathan Brooks may be able to do coming off an injury? Does he become a star NFL running back? There's a lot of players like that that are out there of people that are be interesting stories and rookies going into next season. Who is the one that you're most interested in? I don't say excited. I was going to say excited, but not excited because it doesn't have to be somebody that you're hoping does great. So it's someone that you're interested in that you will be viewing and trying to see what their journey will be at the next level.
Yeah, it's good. I mean, that's honestly the top of the list for America would probably be to see if Caitlin Clark translates to the WNBA. It's wild to say that, but I think she might be the top of that list. And that's considering she's trans. She has really been able to transition from the sports page, or transcend, I should say, from the sports page to the front page.
Yeah, and that's what it's interesting to me to say is if you put it in there, and I mean, look, we can even throw in, we could say Wyatt Langford for the Rangers. I'll throw him in the conversation. As this is a new rookie for the Rangers, I'll throw him in. We now got to see him a little bit, so that maybe dies out. But if you want to say, if you're talking just rookies and you're saying across all major sports, all major professional sports, is it a female for the first time probably ever?
It should have been. This would have been more if it had been the year Wemby was coming out, then I think it'd have been it's definitely Wemby. Because I remember when Wemby, I was like, all right, we got to watch Wemby. He was there's no rookie, I think, in any sport that would have been, I think, more of a draw than Wemby. And I'm trying to think if Caleb Williams would be more of a draw. I don't think so. It's crazy. I'm talking about nationally. I think people want to know if Caitlin Clark will do the same thing she's doing at the college level, at the WNBA level. Will that last? Will it have a lasting effect? No, Caleb Williams will probably have more of a lasting effect. But I think initially people will want to see if Caitlin Clark.
No, I agree. I agree that I think it's there. I want to see what people say on the text line 512-447-3776. I want to see what people say on when we post it online. So I'm curious if everybody's on board that it's Caitlin Clark and that's the most interesting one to look at. Because Caleb Williams, I think too. This is why Caitlin Clark transcends. Is I think because he was most likely going to the Bears, there's less interest.
I totally agree with you. Actually.
But for Caitlin Clark, it doesn't matter what team she goes to because people don't know WNBA teams. So I think it's this weird thing where she transcends over the top because if you look at an NFL, you say, well, if he goes to this team, I'd be interested. But the Bears are not going to be very good, and we don't really think there's much there, so we don't really care. And it's a team that hasn't ever really been exciting at the quarterback position versus we know she's going to Indiana because she's already selling out games. They already moved a game to a bigger arena because Caitlin Clark's coming. So is the anticipation still going to be there? Are you still going to be going? Or is it somebody else that you just, you want to see? I think it goes into what do people love about sports? People love to see what's on the most on the line. And what it feels like is she has the most riding on the line because she is now carrying the torch for women's sports, whether that's justifiable or not, fair or not. That's what she's doing right now. And so there's either people that want to see her succeed or fail, but it feels like there's a lot riding on it. Where if Caleb Williams fails, quarterbacks fail every single year. And if Zach Edey doesn't make it in the NBA, or DJ Burns, who is fun to watch, they don't make it. Big guys fail every year. I think it's interesting, but I just think, are you guys with that? Is there somebody else you're more interested in? Let us know on the text line 512-447-3776.
No, I don't think I've watched a WNBA game. I've watched women's college basketball actually, because I watched Texas, and obviously last year I think everybody was captivated by women's college basketball, and the start of the Caitlin Clark effect. But I don't think I've ever watched a W. Have you watched a W? You watch more basketball?
No, I've watched WNBA games because I was covering a little bit of Silver Stars back in San Antonio years and years ago.
Okay.
So I have, but I do not go out of my way to do it.
So it'll be my first time. I'll probably make sure I check it. I'll try to check it. I'm sure they're going to make it accessible. So they'll put it on national TV just to see if the Caitlin Clark effect translates.
Here's the bigger. You'll see more commercials for it because it's always on ESPN. It's always been, always been accessible. You just
nobody.
You just don't tune in. But this one, it'll be like Caitlin Clark's playing, Kelsey Plum and the Las Vegas Aces. Or they'll be playing, or Angel Reese, because she declared she's going to the draft. Angel Reese versus Caitlin Clark meet up in the first time in WNBA. Those matchups will be ones, and
no, you're right. I think it's Caitlin Clark. Like I said, I'm shocked myself to be saying it, but I believe it is her, because that's what interests me most, to see if she translates. And by the way, matter of fact, we have sound. We're gonna play this later on. There are WNBA stars saying it won't. They're saying like, no, it ain't. You ain't gonna be doing that in the WNBA. You're not going to come here just showing out like you're doing against those 18-year-olds there in college. So that's going to be fun too, because they cannot waste this moment. Women's basketball can't waste this moment. They got to take advantage. That's why I think she should be playing in the Big Three. Like they all need to get together and have like a committee and like, all right, man, we can't. Even the women that she's competing against, they got to take advantage of it, because this potentially could uplift the entire sport to a different kind of stratosphere of the national sports conversation. They could have a different place in the hierarchy potentially. All right, good stuff there. I love the big fat poll today. It's always an interesting conversation. We'll get back to that. We come back. Apparently, there are reports that the Cowboys are frustrated with Micah Parsons. We'll get to that. That came from 105.3 The Fan. Also, we'll balance that out with a little bit Texans conversation. On the other side, we got Rod's rant of the day. All of that and more when we return. This is the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn, Rod Babers here. Let's talk about my friends over at Callahan's General Store. You guys know I've been trying to get the yard of the month here in the neighborhood. I want that golf course conditioned grass, and I'm committed to it because my friend Charlie Wilson, who is the CEO and the general manager over at Callahan's General Store, he said, hey, we know exactly, all right, how to help you get that golf course conditioned grass. They have all the supplies and all the resources there at Callahan's General Store, and they have the knowledge, more importantly. So when you go over there, all you got to do is let them know exactly what you want, and they will make sure that you have all the supplies and all of the knowledge you need to make sure that your grass and your lawn are in top golf course condition, right? So I started with the pre-emergence, put that down, killed a lot of the weeds, and it turns out a lot of my grass was weeds. So I put that down, got the weed and feed down there next. It was great. Got all that at Callahan's General Store. You can get it as well. And then now I'm in the process, because I've killed most of the weeds, just trying to fill in those patches, right? Those brown patches. You got Bermuda seed there. You can do that as well. You can get that at my friends over at Callahan's General Store. And you can find all the stuff you need, the bags of soil, the amendments, amendments, the grass seed that you need, the special fertilizers you need to make sure that your yard is beautiful and lush and healthy looking. They got it all there at Callahan General Store. And if you truly got the green thumb, you're starting to plant the vegetables and the seedlings, you can get that at Callahan's General Store as well. A weekly variety of peppers and tomatoes and melons and plants to choose from. It all comes from our friends at Callahan's. And they got the trees there as well, the pecan trees and the fruit trees. You'll find it all there at Callahan's General Store, 501 Bastrop Highway between downtown and the airport. Remember, every day is a great day to make it a Callahan's Day. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a Smooth Soul Monday edition of the Rodcast. That's my man Patrick, my co-host, and the Idealionaire coming up with the musically themed days of the week. The purpose of a Smooth Soul Monday is to make a smooth transition from the weekend to the work week. We know it can be a bumping one. You might have a case of the Mondays. Well, Smooth Soul Monday is meant to remedy the case of the Mondays for you. Thanks, my man Patrick Davis. What is this? Because the song, obviously, the beat is very recognizable. Everybody knows it's been on a lot of movies and soundtracks, stuff like that. Who exactly made this song?
This is Green Onions by Booker T and the MGs.
Okay, because everybody knows the beat.
Yeah, it's Green Onions.
Okay, all right.
I
did not know that. I swear to God, I did not know the name of the song.
Yes, no, it's called Green Onions. It's Booker T and the MGs, who are awesome. They have an album that is called Macklemore Avenue, I believe, which is basically they just covered Abbey Road, but did it in this style, did it in their style. The Beatles' Abbey Road, and it came out like 2 weeks after Abbey Road came out. It came out really soon after Abbey Road came out. They put out their own album, but it's a really cool. That's one of those ones. If it's just a fun album, just put on because it's like, well, the Beatles album. You've heard all those songs before, so you put that on, get a different take on it. It's still a cool one to listen to in 2024. But yeah, that's one of the best road trip songs. If you're just driving and you just put that on, it's just got a groove to it. You just go.
That is it's a great groove. It's an amazing. I mean, how long is it? Is it a long song?
No, it's 3 minutes.
Okay, see, you figured that it was long because it jams out.
And then they put out more Green Onions after this. They put out Booker T and MGs are awesome.
No, that is I love so more Green Onions. Is that like what is it?
It's just another.
Two?
Yeah, it's kind of is. It's not the same.
Does it sound like it?
No, it's not a hit. So it sounds similar, but it does not have that same feel to it.
Yeah, because that right there, man, they nailed it. I mean,
they did this, and I've been told by my parents this was the first song I ever danced to as a baby.
You danced to Green Onion?
Apparently as a baby, this is the first song they put that one on the record player. And little baby Patrick was like, I feel that.
That's what they do. It's like, man, this kid's gonna be into music, and turns out to this day still is. That is great. That's a fantastic story. Okay, yeah, that's I love that. Never knew that. That's why I love the music theme days of the week, because I learned something new. Thanks to my man Patrick Davis. Also, thanks to Patrick, we have the big fat poll of the day. Before we get into some of our big headlines, we'll talk Cowboys here, because there is a story that is percolating in Cowboys country, and from a pretty reliable source. 105.3 The Fan does a great job covering the Cowboys, and on one of their shows they revealed a little rumor, but a well-sourced rumor about Michael Parsons with the Cowboys. We'll get into that. We'll hear the audio as well. I will try to balance that out with some Texans talk. I try to balance my Cowboys, Texans talk with a little each other. So if I talk Texans, we're going to talk some Cowboys, try to throw in some Texans conversation as well. So we'll do that coming up here in this segment. But Patrick, let the people know what the topic is for the big fat poll of the day.
Big fat poll of the day today, 512-447-3776 is the text line. Which rookie are you most interested in seeing next season, or their rookie season? Because Caitlin Clark is probably the easiest choice. Caitlin Clark is the one. And we've already, some people on the text line said they've never watched WNBA. They did not say if they're going to. With Caitlin Clark next year, they did not say if they're going to. They said they've never watched WNBA. So does that make people watch? Because if she does, then that's probably the answer to the question. Is it a Caleb Williams? Is there someone else in the NFL draft that you're extremely excited and interested to see what they do at the next level? Is it someone in the NBA draft? Are you excited to see Zach Edey, who's playing for a national title tonight? 7'4". His size his game doesn't necessarily translate to the next level. So are you interested in seeing if he's able to go change the game at the next level? Is it Wyatt Langford on the Rangers and making a meteoric rise? One of the fastest rises in MLB history, to see if he's able to stay on the Texas Rangers roster all season long and be able to, put up historic numbers and continue his rise. Is it one of those? Because it can be anything, but if the answer is a female, that seems surprising.
I'm with you. I didn't expect to say Caitlin Clark, but I believe it is. I am now intrigued to see if her game translates. There are WNBA players saying that it won't translate, that she'll, obviously be slapped in the face with reality that, that can happen at college. But when you're playing in the pros, there's a certain transition of playing elite competition or more elite competition. So I think it is her. And I think they should, like I said, I do think women's basketball is having a moment. They need to capitalize on it, in all of them. So I do think the women that are trash talking Caitlin Clark a little bit from the WNBA side, I think it's brilliant. Keep doing it. It's great, because partly what's making this story of Caitlin Clark and the Caitlin Clark effect so effective is because of the storylines and the villains that exist now within this, basically within her orbit. Right, LSU is considered a villain because of Kim Mulkey and how controversial she is, and how polarizing, and just their brand of basketball. And there's these rivalries now developing, right? They had the rematch in the Elite Eight, LSU playing Iowa from the national title in 2023, which, obviously both of them were record-setting games in terms of the viewership. And then you have South Carolina, who had only one loss last year, and their one loss was to Iowa. And then they played them in the national title again this year, right? So you actually have rivalries that are developing between these elite programs in women's college basketball. That helps, and it helps to have villains, right? Because villains create conflict creates storylines. So I don't know if they're doing it intentionally or they're just being haters. But either way, it's good that these WNBA women are coming out and hating on Caitlin Clark. Keep it up. Talk trash. We like petty, right? We like petty. That's what helped out the women's college basketball national title in 2023. It was that you can't see me petty trash talk between Angel Reese and between Caitlin Clark. Keep it up when you go to the NBA. Let's get petty. Lots of trash talk, lots of villains. Turn her into the hero. Turn her into their version of Michael Jordan. What did Michael Jordan have to do? Get through the Pistons. What do you have to do? Get through the Celtics. We watched Michael Jordan get whipped and beat, and we watched him get slapped around, and we loved every second of it. And it turned him into this iconic figure. It turned him into something that Patrick, to this day, can't understand. Turned him into an underdog. Because we watched him get slapped around, even though he's one of the greatest athletes on the planet, drafted in the top 5, it turned him into an underdog because he could never win. He got beat up over and over again by the powers in the NBA until he broke through, and we followed that story and followed that saga. She's got to do the same thing.
Yeah.
So turn her into that. We got the blueprint. Just follow it. Just follow
it is, but the reality is she has a tougher road ahead of her because her road is not only go out there and prove she can win the next 15 NBA championships. I don't think anybody cares, or WNBA championships, and no one cares. She needs to score 60 points a night. She needs to put up historic numbers and show that's what she has to do. Is that she can't miss TV is what she has to do. That's the more difficult part about it, because if she's just the best WNBA player, the best of something that is not watched is still not watched.
the best live golfer, nobody sees. Nobody still don't know what else.
Yeah.
When he gets to the majors.
Yeah, when you see Brooks Koepka, you see him in the majors. That's when you watch him. And so it is what it is. That's the question. Her road is, I have to make it now. But Michael Jordan did that to an extent as well, because Michael Jordan was a guy who the NBA rose to a level of prosperity had never been when Michael Jordan was there. So he's part of that line, but that was also because he was doing some electric things. And Caitlin Clark's got to do those to add in with just being a really good jump shooter.
Totally agree with you. No, you're right. She's got to go above. She's got to be extraordinary. She just can't be. She can't just be really good. She's got to be great to GOAT-ish when she goes there.
And let's not put it all on her. And then Angel Reese and everybody else in WNBA has to step up their game as well, because it wasn't just Michael Jordan who built the league. The league got better at that point in time too. There was a lot of other good players. So it's not. I won't say I'm not going to put the success or failure of the WNBA on one person's shoulders, but she's the catalyst, and everybody else has to bring their parts up with it. And
if it is indeed like MJ, she will inspire a generation of young women who want to be like Caitlin Clark. So we'll get a Kobe. We'll get the Caitlin Clark version of Kobe, right? With Kobe was basically mini Mike. He the tongue and the moves, and was like, damn, he's like a doppelganger of Michael Jordan. That's what you're hoping, is that you got a young Caitlin Clark right now she's just grinding. And she's gonna become basically what we got when Kobe. She's gonna be that to women's basketball with Caitlin Clark. And then you get the total transformation of a generation of basketball fans. Okay. Good conversation. Let's get to the Horn headlines first with my man, Patrick Davis. Then we'll come back and talk Cowboys. There's something to brewing in Cowboy country, and I don't like it. First, let's hit the Horn headlines with Patrick Davis.
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. The NCAA Men's Basketball Championship game is set after both favorites were able to pull away in the second half to secure their trip. Purdue's Zach Edey led the way for the Boilermakers, 63-50 win over NC State, and Alabama was not able to keep up with their hot shooting, and UConn dominated the final 10 minutes, winning 86-72. Purdue and UConn will face off tonight at 8:20. And in the women's tournament, the Dawn Staley-led South Carolina Gamecocks won their third national championship, stopping Caitlin Clark in Iowa 87-75. Clark was able to put up 30 points, but shot only 35% from the field to do it. Texas baseball dropped their series to BYU over the weekend. Pitching was once again a problem, with no pitchers Thursday or Saturday lasting more than 3 innings. Jalen Flores was able to add 2 more home runs to his season total over the series. Texas will play a home and away against Texas State Tuesday and Wednesday this week. Texas softball got a hard-fought 2-1 series victory over the number 1 Oklahoma Sooners over the weekend. Texas was able to get 2 runs in the fourth on both Saturday and Sunday to hold on and get their first series victory over the Sooners since 2009. Freshman Katie Stewart provided a needed boost with 3 RBIs in the series, including a home run to take the lead on Sunday. Texas will be back in action on Wednesday against Texas State. In the NBA, the Mavericks were able to edge out 2 wins over Golden State and Houston. Luka Doncic missed the game against the Warriors, but returned for the overtime victory against the Rockets. Irving put up 48 points on Sunday, with Luka adding 37 more. But with the Clippers also winning over the weekend, the Mavs weren't able to make up ground on the 4 seed in the West with only 1 week left in the season. And in Major League Baseball, the Rangers took games 1 and 2 of their series against the Astros in lopsided fashion, but the Astros were able to bounce back Sunday, behind 6 more innings of only 1 hit pitching from Roniel Blanco. The 1 hit came, of course, from Adolis Garcia, who already has 5 RBIs and a home run in the series, with the final game being played tonight with pregame starting at 6:30 right here on the Horn. And that is your Horn Headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn Headlines. Appreciate that. Could you please pull up that Micah Parsons sound when you get a chance here? Because it was a 105.3 The Fan, and I believe it was Shan Sharif who actually threw it out there. He's one of the hosts on one of their shows. They do a really good job. But they were talking about the potential of a Micah Parsons trade. And I thought, oh, it's just a hypothetical segment about, sports radio. And then you throw those out there. What would a Micah Parsons trade look like? All right. How much would you get in return? We've discussed things like that here,
yes,
even on this show. But during the hypothetical, Shan dropped something that was pretty deep because he's got a lot of connections with the Cowboys. So here is Shan on 105.3 The Fan talking about what he heard behind the scenes about Micah Parsons.
I have heard from way too many people this offseason. Way too many. I'm talking about at least 4 different people that Micah has worn thin there. Now, I don't know how much is true and how much it actually hurts. I don't know whether this is the behavior of a typical superstar. I don't know how damaging it is, but all I do know is this. I've heard from way too many people. If Micah Parsons was out of there, there'd be a decent amount of people inside the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco smiling or breathing a sigh of relief. That is my hot take statement that to me is really close to factual about just dealing with him.
Okay. Like I said, that's big. And you know what it reminds me of, Patrick? Do you remember when Jesse Holley came out and said those things about Micah Parsons? Jesse Holley, who played for the Cowboys, came via the reality TV show. Remember that to the Cowboys, and he's a fan favorite, and has great takes and great insight and great knowledge. And he called Micah Parsons in one of his interviews. He called him a selfish player. He said he called him the most selfish player on the team. And he started throwing out specific examples of what he thought was selfish, as like, not having the guys over to his house enough, to watch film and to promote camaraderie and team building. He talked about how he would rather play a position that is going to get Micah Parsons more notoriety, like be on the edge rather than be a linebacker, because it's good for Micah, not necessarily good for the team. And I said at the time, I said, man,
he worked out with other guys and not his own teammates, and he was not.
Yes,
that he was doing that.
He just kept throwing out all these random examples. I'm like, for him to go ham like that, he must have a source that is telling him within the organization that Micah is very, very selfish, because otherwise you don't come out and say stuff like that as a former player, because not only the guys in the locker room are going to feel a certain way about it, but Micah's going to feel a certain way about it. And you're a guy that's potentially going to lose access when you start saying that a guy that's the guy that leads the team in jersey sales, and he's one of the top 5 leading jersey, I think one of the top 5 jersey sales, at least top 5 most jerseys sold, I think, in the NFL among all the players, quarterbacks or whatever. I mean, the guy's really popular. Jerry Jones loves him. And if he's re-signed, he's going to be, the highest paid defensive player of all time. All those things taken into account, you're taking a real chance by calling him out to such a degree. And I said he's got to have a source inside the Cowboys that's making him feel good about making such an extreme statement like that and not losing access or losing respect and credibility with the locker room. And I think this also shows you that he said, I think Shan said he had 4 sources. But I wouldn't doubt they're the same. They're the same sources that Jesse Holley had, that also Shan has. That's the point I want to make.
No, I agree. And I think that we also are maybe seeing this, because I think the narrative has definitely shifted a lot this offseason, that Dan Quinn was protecting Micah a little bit more. And Dan Quinn was kind of keeping the narrative of, no, listen, I know maybe you're misunderstanding him, but no, but we're using him this way. I'm the guy who's going to use him this way. It's my decision of what he does. And Dan Quinn was protecting him a little bit more. And with Dan Quinn gone, and now Mike Zimmer coming in, and Mike Zimmer saying he wants things, I think people feel maybe a little bit more free to say, man, the reason we're not, like, he's not playing winning football. He's playing Micah Parsons football. He's not playing winning football. And so if Dan Quinn says, no, he's playing my style and my style wins, then you don't have the argument. But once Dan Quinn leaves and that argument's not there anymore, they can say what they truly believe. Whether that's true or not, whether we'll see, I think a lot of people, and I've been on the thought that if he could be more versatile, he could become a much better weapon. His numbers would be changed because you just don't get the glory stats playing linebacker that you do playing defensive end and just rushing the quarterback. But if you could be more versatile, the better you could be. The fact that run defense was so bad last season, and he basically was more of a fault of that than someone trying to help it. I think that really made a lot of people unhappy. That, it's any time you work in any business, and if there's a problem and people look at it and don't try and fix it at all, you're not going to be happy with that person's work. And that, I think, it went that way a lot last year. That's not all on him. There needs to be other pieces to step up in those places. But I could see why, when they realize he's about to ask for the most money that any defensive player has ever gotten, definitely, and maybe they feel does not want to play winning football. They do not feel that this is a guy that they want to be on a team with, because they feel, well, we'll never win. If he's the star and he doesn't want to be team friendly, then we're not. And I mean that on the field and off, then we don't want to be there. Whether that's true or not, it may be sour grapes. It may be people being unhappy. But it does not surprise me that is the case.
Yeah, no, I said, it's interesting that I remember that Jesse Holley story, and I thought, man, Jesse Holley is just going off on Michael Parsons, and and like I said, either it was personal or he had a source that was rock solid within that Cowboys organization saying, no, put this out there for us. You put it out there. You will not lose access. You won't lose any credibility here. You're good. Trust me. This is rock solid information. And then now you got Shan saying something very similar that, they're, and by the way, Des Bryant, I'll throw this out there too, because Des Bryant says this is the MO of the Dallas Cowboys. He said, when you're in a contract situation with the Cowboys, this is what they do. There's going to be they're going to throw out some negative media, negative stories to try to drop your value. And Des Bryant tweeted out, ish. I know how this go. SMFH. He said, at Michael Parsons, this is what happens whenever it's time to get paid. So he's saying, based on his negotiation, remember, he did sign a 5-year, $70 million deal with the Cowboys, $45 million guaranteed, but he's been very open and vocal about what a tense and kind of angst-filled negotiation it was, and it was one that they butted heads with the Cowboys a lot. And he's talked about that. So maybe this is kind of par for the course for the Cowboys. Like, hey, we dropped that value, and if you are thinking about hitting the open market, you won't be worth as much as you thought, or you'll be cheaper in the long run with the Dallas Cowboys. That's what Dez is claiming in terms of his conspiracy theory. But it is interesting now that you're starting to hear more and more about Michael Parsons and the Cowboys potentially, growing growing a little bit frustrated with him as a player and as a leader. I think he's got to become a better run defender, though, period. Because otherwise, teams just going to run at him. He's got to become a better. He cannot just be an elite pass rusher and a below average run defender. Then, oh man, then you're too easy to game plan for. We're just going to run at you. So you got to get better there.
No, that's the thing is you want to see progress, and that's just with any player. You want to see them continue to add things to their arsenal, continue to get better. So he, if he can come out and after this offseason and add that to Arsenal, then Mike Zimmer's defense, he gets better. But yeah, I think I agree with Dez. I think that's probably part of it too, that there is more people that are feel willing to speak. But at the end of the day, these are the types of pieces that you wonder when things come out about people and the only ones who defend them are their family. It always, there's a little piece of it you go, it seems like a couple more teammates should come out and say, no, man, we have dinner with them every single week. We go in there. That's all. That's just some people that are unhappy in the locker room. But that ain't about Micah. That's about them. And you don't see that as much as people maybe looking at it and saying that. I mean, all that somewhat checks out. Now that I think checks out for what 50% of the players in the NFL, if not more.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a unique thing to Micah Parsons. It's not saying that if you get rid of Micah Parsons, well, that's the one bad apple and you got it all. And now you're free and clear. So sometimes you just have to deal with different personalities when you deal with star players and insanely talented people. But I could see that that's where I think where you say that they're trying to get the money down. That makes more sense than that. That look, because Des Bryant was the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Des Bryant was you have enough demons and skeletons in your closet. We can say whatever to get your price down. We just have to change public perception. We're not saying anything that's untrue. We're just trying to change public perception.
Yeah, no, it is. It's just like I said, it's interesting, and I know it's coming from somebody within the Cowboys organization, somebody close to them. Otherwise, both of those guys who are trusted insiders, they don't make that public knowledge. They keep it for themselves. They don't make it public knowledge. If it's somebody they don't trust, there's somebody like a rock solid source within the Cowboys, they don't make that public knowledge. They may imply it, they may hint at it, but they don't just flat out say it the way they did. Like he's the most selfish player on the Dallas Cowboys. Jesse Holley had a rock solid source. I believe Shan has a rock solid source. Not saying that it means they're going to move on from Mike or anything, but I think it's either a negotiating tactic or it's they want to change his behavior. And they believe they can do it kind of via the court of public opinion without having to directly address it with him. Because then if they do that, then maybe Micah feels a certain kind of way. And like you said, Dan Quinn, maybe he was the guy to address it with Micah. And now they've lost that connection, that buddy with Micah. And now they don't know how to communicate with Micah in that way. All right. Good stuff there. All right. We come back. We'll get into Rod's rant on the other side. We'll push it. We'll talk a little Texans, like to balance out the scales a little bit. So we'll talk a little Texans on the other side. I saw another stat about the Texans' run to win a division and win a playoff game yesterday that just blew my mind. I'll share that with you on the other side. We'll also get into some other news, notes, and nuggets. Apparently, Bronny James is confused and confusing everybody else. We'll get into that too. That's a little strange story that I have no idea where it's going. All of that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to Rod's rant of the day. I was looking at some stats about the Texans, doing some research, and came upon a stat that really blew my mind about the Texans. Now, I've told you guys before that the Texans had the most injury riddled injury riddled team in the NFL last season. You look at adjusted games lost, which is a cumulative metric to try to look at the amount of games lost to injury all across a roster of an NFL team. Houston was among the leaders in adjusted games lost. If you look at the stat I have here, if you look at total adjusted games lost for the 2023 season, the Texans were total, they were at 159. That led the NFL. Their offense, they were at 106 adjusted games lost, which is a lot. Defensively, they were at 52 and a half adjusted games lost. The average team's adjusted games lost was at 68.9. If you look at just the overall offense, and that was a low figure, by the way, in the NFL. And the Texans had they were at, like I said, 106, even on the offensive line where they had the most of, I think, most of their adjusted games lost. They had 82 adjusted games lost just on the O line alone, which, by the way, was the highest for any team since 2001. So they had the most injuries on their O line for any team in the NFL since 2001. I mean, they were just a mass unit on the O line. So in addition to Houston, also had a good number of injuries in the defensive backfield. They had 33 adjusted games lost in the defensive backfield. Wide receiver, they were at 17. I mean, it added up. So nobody dealt with more injuries than the Texans. And they had a rookie head coach. They had a rookie quarterback. First time a rookie head coach, a rookie quarterback have won a division since 1920. All right, talked about that. Decatur Staley's, George Hallis, and Dutch Sterneman. And then I found this stat. So add this to it too. The Texans also played the fifth most rookies in the NFL last season. There were only 4 teams that played more rookies than the Texans. Texans played, they had 4,208 total rookie snaps last season. And of course, most of those CJ Stroud, Will Anderson, Tank Dell, Jared Patterson, Juice Scruggs. I mean, they had a lot of them. Green Bay was among the league leaders. They had 5,316. The Rams were at 4,646, somewhere around there. So, and you're talking about teams that, most of the teams that are playing a ton of rookies, they're not going to make the playoffs. So the Packers, they were surprised, ended up beating the Cowboys. They were the youngest team in the NFC at the time to do so. The Texans also one of those teams that made the playoffs as a really young team. Of course, rookie head coach, rookie quarterback, but playing a lot of rookies too. I want to say that that's why the Bucs were also in that category. The Bucs were also ranked ahead of the Texans in rookie snaps. The Bears were ranked ahead of the Texans in rookie snaps. I want to say maybe the Cardinals are one of the other teams that was right there, but they were right there in the top 5 in terms of rookie snaps played, which also shows you that, man, there's so much upside with this Texans team, period. And they're Nick Caserio being uber aggressive. He has made 9 more trades, actually. Last time I looked, I believe it was at 9 more trades than anybody else in the NFL since he got to the Texans. So Trader Nick Caserio, as they called him. He's at I think he's at 9 more than any other team since he got the job in 2021. And I guarantee he's about to add to that in the draft. He'll probably be the most active GM in the NFL draft too. And he'll add to that total. So it's the Texans right now. You can tell that Nick Caserio, he's considering all these factors, and I think that's why he's being so aggressive. I mean, tried to trade for Keenan Allen, didn't work. Tried to trade for Eric Armstead, didn't work out. They're being uber aggressive because I think he understands. Actually, last year they could have been a whole lot better if not being the most injury-riddled team in the NFL, if not for the inexperience of DeMeco Ryans. I mean, it had to be some growing pains. He had to have some, growing pains, learning on the job because it was his first time being a head coach, first time offensive coordinator and play caller for Bobby. First time play caller. He's been an OC, but first time play caller for Bobby Slowick. That was big in terms of the inexperience. And then you talk about playing, fifth most rookies in the NFL. There was a lot last year that probably should have limited this team a lot more, but they still ended up winning division and winning a playoff game. So that's why he's so aggressive at this point. Because at this time, not only do you have the advantage of your franchise quarterback on the rookie deal, but like I said, you're not supposed to win a division when you have that many injuries. You're not supposed to win a playoff game when you have that many injuries. You're not supposed to win a playoff game or win a division when you have rookie quarterbacks and a rookie head coach. So they're the outlier in so many ways. I think he believes that they have good injury luck this year, which usually that pendulum swings back and forth. Bad injury luck, then good injury luck. Unless you're like the 49ers, they've always had bad luck. But remember, the Ravens had a lot of bad injury luck some of those years, and they had good injury luck this past year. That goes back and forth. So I think he's hoping, based on his knowledge of the NFL, they're going to have good injury luck this year, or at least better. They can't have worse. They have better injury luck. You'll have a now experienced play caller on offense in Bobby Slowick. You'll have an experienced head coach, an experienced quarterback, that if you throw all those things together, and he being as active as possible because you have the discount of a franchise quarterback, a rookie quarterback on that rookie deal, go all in and be uber aggressive. And I got to say, I haven't seen the Eagles are the closest thing I can remember to a team being this aggressive in the offseason.
Yeah.
I can't remember a team being this aggressive. The Jags, they've done it a couple of times, but I would say being this uber aggressive and also competitive. The Jags will do it, and then they've done it after a losing season. It's like, well, nobody cares. But the Texans are doing it after a team that achieved at a high level.
I'd say the Jets were trying to do it a little bit more last season, bringing in Aaron Rodgers, and I tried to bring in a couple more guys. So they did it a little bit. They didn't. I don't think they did it. They were able to do it as much as they wanted to do it. But that's also, you get hamstrung because you trade for an Aaron Rodgers who's going to take up $70 million of your cap that year. So
exactly.
There was some reasons why they weren't as active, but I think they tried to be more active. But yeah, it's there's not a lot of teams who have been, at least, and not in major ways, because teams will be active at times, but not necessarily. They'll make a ton of small moves, and they'll try and just piece it together piece by piece. And we can't afford the best players, so we'll go get as many bargains as we can go try and find. But yeah, I'd say other than the Eagles are the only team that consistently will take swings. And it feels like Caserio is saying, I've been my betting's been really good, so I'm placing a lot more bets this offseason. And it just feels like he's betting on himself at this point because he hit enough. Because CJ Stroud hit, and even with the offensive line, he's done well enough that he drafted 2 centers last year. Ended up he needed both of them to play a lot, and so those types of things. I think he feels that he's been doing a good enough job in the scouting department, not him, but everyone who works there in that front office, that they should keep going for it, because when you're hot and you're feeling it, you've got to go. You got to ride the hot hand.
I didn't think about that, Patrick, but you're right, man. His confidence too.
Yeah.
In making these deals and now I would argue that sometimes he gives away some of the value that he obtained in the deals, with the Joe Mixon deal, trading for him, then signing him to a deal and voiding the last 3 years of the Stephon Diggs deal. But we've talked about that, how there may be a psychological element to trying to motivate those guys in that way. And you brought up a really good point about, DeMeco Ryans probably getting in there and saying, hey, man, we want a locker room that's happy, which we want our stars happy. We want free agents coming in here. We want this to be a destination for big time free agents. We got to seem like we're more player friendly than that. And also, you have to reinvent yourself as an organization, because you had 3-4 years where between the Jack used to be Bill O'Brien stuff, I mean, you were just a fuster cluck of a franchise and a disaster, dysfunctional franchise. So I think that's part of it too. But I think you hit the nail on the head. The confidence Nick Caserio has now that he can make a good deal, that he's a good deal maker. So now he's out there just wheeling and dealing. And I think you're right. I think he believes he's got a hot hand. And looking at his recent draft and recent acquisitions, I would tend to agree. The man knows what he's doing.
Yeah, I mean, if you say our scouting department, we feel it's the best in the business right now, so we know what we're scouting in whether that's scouting players in the league and scouting players that you're drafting. If you feel you've got the line on it and you know the best talent and you know what you're trying to bring in, why not keep going for it until you get cold? Keep going with it.
That.
And so
I think he's doing. You're right. He's rolling, man.
And that's what you want to see if you're the Texans. If you're a Texans fan, you'd like to see him keep trying to improve because again, and I know this is something that people that are not necessarily Texas fans will keep bringing up. You change up your schedule because you played a last place schedule and now you're playing a first place schedule. So it does get tougher this year. There is issue. You're not going to be able to waltz through playing the worst teams across the league. But you are hoping that the fact that you were able to win a playoff game, that you were able to win the division, you were able to play everybody in your division last year and get the wins you needed to win the division, that you should be able to still hang into that conversation and then improve throughout the season. But you want to improve the same way your schedule is going to improve.
Yeah. No, you're right about that. I didn't think about the first place schedule too. That is going to be big, and you're hoping that the Texans will get on more primetime games on big stages.
They played one game that didn't start at noon last season.
I think, pretty much.
Because I know they had one that got moved back to noon.
Yeah, they did. No, you're right about that. And this season, considering the weapons they brought in, I bet I've talked about CJ Stroud in his MVP odds too. Right now, good value there. I bet the NFL will put him in primetime.
They gave him the Hall of Fame game.
Yep.
They put him on to the first game of the season, so they're
exactly right.
They're definitely in the thoughts.
Yep, that's exactly right. And trust me, it's been a while since the Texans have been in the thoughts of the NFL commissioner and the folks who are making the broadcast schedule. All right, good stuff there. But the Texans, like I said, more and more, the more and more research I do about last year's run, the more remarkable it seems. Like I said, the injuries, playing all those rookies, it's just phenomenal what they were able to do. All right, we come back. We got what the facts, what the stats. Got some Wemby stats. Got some women's national championship stats. Got a Caitlin Clark stat for you. Got stats all over the place, facts all over the place for you. We'll do that when we come back right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Davis coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast featuring my man Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Time for what the facts, what the stats. Always got some good stuff for you. All right, so here's the first what the facts, what the stats we have for you here. Victor Wembanyama. I love Victor Wembanyama stats. I mean, you could do just what the facts, what the stats about Victor because they're all freaky and crazy. And every game, it seems like there's more and more freaky, crazy stats. So last game, he had his 25th game with at least 20 and at least 10, at least 20 points, at least 10 rebounds. The rest of the entire rookie class has 19 combined. No one else has more than 6. He's got 25 of them. 2010 games. He also has 100 blocks in the last 24 games, which is more than 99% of the NBA. This comes from Jordan Howenstein, so shout out to him. More than 99% of the NBA has the entire season. So only 11 players have 100-plus blocks this year. He has 100 blocks in the last 24 games. God, I love Wemby stats. They're so freaky.
Yeah.
So crazy.
It is. So I'll tell you a Wemby stat that I had to look into more. Because
I know it sounds fake.
Well, no. But this is a stat that was on a negative side for Wemby, and it was one that I was looking at. Okay. So, because I was looking at last night, he had 9 turnovers in the game last night. It was double overtime, so he played a lot of minutes. But I've seen his turnover stats are pretty high, and I'm not as used to it as a Spurs fan. Your turnover stats are not as high. But in today's game, if you look at who's leading the NBA in turnovers per game average, he's number 2 right now. He's number 2.
Oh, that's not good.
Number 1 is Luka Doncic. Number 4 is Giannis. Number 5 is LeBron James.
So it's like usage.
Yeah, number 8 is Kevin Durant. Like, it's guys who have the ball a lot. So Kate Cunningham's on the list. Scoot Henderson, also young players. So that's young players and usage players. Wemby falls into both. So it is something that I saw the stat where I looked at it and it was starting to scare me a little bit more. You say, okay, well, that's young. He may go through it. But then seeing on the flip of that, okay, he's right there with the best players in the league who have those really high usage rates. So it's not as concerning as I thought originally, but an interesting stat of trying to figure out where I was getting a little bit more worried about, is this going to be because of his size, because it's a lot easier to poke the ball away because he's so big.
Yeah.
But
handles, yeah.
But apparently it's just a very common thing, which makes sense for guys that have the ball lots.
It makes perfect sense actually for guys that have a ball. That's why you said Luka. I was like, oh, it's definitely a usage thing. Because
Exactly.
Luka's not careless with the basketball, but when you have the basketball that much, I mean, it's inevitable. And you're the focus of the defense,
yeah.
right? Everybody's focused on you and trying to stop you. This is we threw this out there earlier, but I think it's worth mentioning since it's so relevant and topical with the men's national title game happening tonight. UConn's going to face Purdue. UConn is the only FBS public school in Sportico's database that spends more money on basketball than football. It's also the only school to win both D1 basketball titles in the same year, which it did in 2004 and in 2014. So
yeah,
there you go.
Yeah, no, they're good.
Like you said, they're well funded. People,
they're well funded. They're
well funded
because it's the conversation is always, well, no, but it's about fundamentals, and you're like, it's about fundamentals. It's also about getting really, really good prospects, and really, what's really impressive is getting like 6 to 8 of them a season, and constantly having depth, because that's one thing a lot of teams do not have in college basketball anymore because of the transfer portal. Anyone who feels they can be a starter in college basketball is going to be a starter in college basketball now. You no longer have to sit on a bench for 3 seasons to get to be a starter. You can go transfer and start the next year. And then if you're the best starter on that team, you transfer again and go back up to a higher level. But you can transfer down and back up again. And a lot more people are doing that to get the playing time than sitting on the bench. So you just don't have teams that have a lot of depth anymore.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Even on the women's side, I remember seeing the stat that South Carolina's bench like outscored Iowa by like 30. It was like 30 by like almost 30 points or something like that. It was crazy. It was freakish. But to get to your point, they're stockpiling the depth, and Iowa, as talented as they were, they don't have that kind of depth. One more quick little nugget here, and what the stats before we get to the break. Caitlin Clark scored more points this season, 1,234. than Iowa football scored during her time as a Hawkeye.
I saw that.
1,028. That's a nice little fact. I don't even know if I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if if it's that relevant. It just sounds cool.
No. Is that more an accolade for Caitlin Clark or a condemnation of how bad this Iowa offense has been for 4 or 5 seasons?
It's a great point. And didn't they play in the Big Ten title game? Like didn't Iowa? Iowa's winning games despite not scoring points. Which is crazy.
That's why the Big Ten is going to be so much fun to watch next year, because the Big Ten has now added in the Pac-12 who doesn't play defense. And they got the Big Ten who only plays defense.
That's true. And you had like two of the best offensive programs and cultures in college football. Washington. Now this Penix is going and the head coach is going now. But then you got USC with Lincoln Riley. So that should be fun.
And Oregon.
That should be fun. And
Dan
Oregon
Lanning
too.
in Oregon coming through there, putting up 70 a game, about to roll in there to Iowa and have a game where it's, well, we outscored them by 20. How many points to score? 20.
No, the Big Ten needs it badly, man. They do, because that's an ugly style of play that the Big Ten is championing up there. All right, there you go. That's what the facts, what the stats. We come back, we'll talk about the women's national title game from last night. South Carolina getting the national championship there, and we'll also get into the unfortunate Devondre Sweat news for Longhorn fans. Big news with John Calipari. Still watching. They're still saying it's breaking. It's been breaking all morning long. Headed to Arkansas. We'll talk about what that means, because the domino effect, the coaching carousel in college basketball, it's moving at high speeds right now. We'll talk about that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, coming back on the Horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Yeah, I was jamming a little bit too much there. Smooth Soul Monday. That's what Smooth Soul Monday is all about. To take you to a different place on a Monday. Monday's usually, you're anxious and you're stressed out, you're frustrated because it's Monday. You got to get back to work. So my man Patrick comes up with the musically themed days of the week, and Mondays are for a Smooth Soul Monday, meant to transition you smoothly from the good times and the fun times of the weekend, relaxing times of the weekend, to the stress-filled work week. So in order to do that, in the right mindset to get you the right vibe, Smooth Soul Monday. So thank you for that, Patrick, because it does actually. I'm not gonna lie. I think it works.
It works.
Music is big for setting the mood, and he wants to set the mood for you on a Monday.
Yes.
Smooth Soul. Don't stress out, man. Don't be stressed out about it.
No stress.
Eclipse Day.
Yeah.
Actually, you should be chilling today, right?
You just
Are
enjoy
people
it.
taking a day off to watch the eclipse? Is this a thing? Because the traffic reports are there's no traffic out there.
No, I think people are taking the day off. Schools are out for it. Which I get schools being because he didn't want to,
It's educational too.
It's educational. You want to have that
astronomical event. Okay.
And I think a lot of people work from home now. They have the ability to work from home more.
Me.
And so some of those people may still be working, but they're like, well, I'm gonna work it from home, and my kids are at home, so we'll work from home today. I know we normally have a Monday meeting here at the office and with the radio station. We normally have a Monday. It has been changed to Zoom only this week to let everybody get home. They've changed it to say, hey, don't go over there and don't come in. We just go over and do it Zoom only, so we don't have to miss anything. People can get to the places they need to get to go look at it.
Now, what happens if there's overcast? Because right now I'm looking at the sky and it doesn't look like it's going to be like a clear sky.
No, and I know it's supposed to rain around that time, or it was when I checked last night.
This sucks. Well, you spend all that money.
I think it's been pushed back now. So now the rain's about 3. Yesterday it was like
good.
Yesterday it was right on it. It was like right on the same time. Hopefully that gets pushed back a little bit more. It's not going to be perfect. It's still going to get dark at whatever time it is, 12:30, 12:40, something like that.
Yeah, but will it affect if there is like overcast and it's not clear skies? Will it affect your ability to visually be able to see it even when you got the eyewear?
I think somewhat, yes. I think somewhat,
get darker.
Yeah,
that would suck if you spent a lot of money to get down here to the what do they call it, the line of totality or whatever.
Yeah,
and to book the Airbnb and to pay for the flights, and then you don't even get the visual,
the full experience. Yeah, it would be disappointing. I did not spend any of that money though, so I'm good. No,
you could have rented out your crib, man, and made some bread.
I could have. No, but what I did, but then I'd have to go somewhere else.
That's true.
And surprisingly, I'm still at work this morning, so
I'll sleep on somebody's couch for a couple of days. That's all.
No,
you do a lot of bands and stuff.
Yeah, I'm too old to sleep on people's couches anymore.
Yeah, that's true.
It don't work. No, and then I didn't even have to buy the glasses. My mom, where we had Easter. Mom was like, "You got glasses yet?" I go, "No." She goes, "Here, take these." So I was
take these.
She said, "Well, because I said I don't need them. I'm probably I'll try to remember to go outside." And she said, "No, you have to go." And I said, "All right, I'm not going to fight this."
Okay, so you are going to go outside and watch it then.
I'll play step if I remember. I said last time there was a partial one. I was sitting at my desk, window faces out in the front yard,
and it's got dark.
And it was all of a sudden it got darker. I was like, "What is going on out there?" And then I looked outside. I was like, "Oh, that's right, that's today."
Yes, I remember that actually when it got dark because I was in the house and it was kind of freaky. It was creepy actually how dark it got.
So yeah, it's supposed to get like nighttime dark today.
Yeah, that will be kind of cool. Maybe I'll try to go. You said someone on the text line said I can go to Walmart and get some eyewear that has some type of certification of some kind.
They said
that there's some organization responsible organization that I can trust that has certified this eyewear, not some place off Amazon where some dude's just trying to hustle me. Yeah, I mean, I want some. I don't want to be looking up at the eclipse and then have some irreparable damage to my eyes because I got some cheap eyewear or something.
That's the it would be like it'll be you can get they said it's USA made and then I think ISO certified. I don't know what that is.
See, exactly. I don't know what that is. It sounds official. So as long as it sounds official, I think we can make it. So maybe I'll go to Walmart and try to get some of those glasses, some of the right hour. But either way, it doesn't mean that much to me. So I'm all right just missing it. I'm all right experiencing it without staring right directly at it. It's okay. That's you know what I mean. My feelings won't be hurt at all. Okay, so we'll get back
especially
to
if it's overcast.
Yes, because like right now I'm looking at it and I don't see clear skies. Like it looks like it's overcast, but you still got a few hours and things. The sun could break through, and then you could get your eclipse experience. So Eclipse Day. So shout out to all those who are all about it, because I know a lot of people are really excited about it. They're having like eclipse parties, and there's even a warning. Well, we'll get to that in off the record. Actually, there's a actual warning, a news report about a warning from like federal officials about things to look out for during the eclipse. Creepy, freaky stuff. So we'll get into that and off the record. All right, we got the Horn headlines coming up here momentarily. We'll talk about the John Calipari to Arkansas news. That is big news. T'Vondre Sweat, he got some bad news over the weekend, arrested for a DWI here in the Austin area. We'll get back to that conversation. And the women put on a show. Women's basketball is having a moment, ladies and gentlemen, and we are bearing witness. We'll discuss that as well. But first, let my man Patrick hook us up with the Horn headlines.
If I can find my piece of paper, give me a second here.
I hit you up too quick on that one. I'll admit.
I moved things around.
Delayed
we got it. We're good.
My anticipatory skills were a little off there. You know what I mean? That was a bad throw. Bad toss. Bad toss by the quarterback.
Good. We're good. We'll hit it. Horn headlines.
My bad. Let's go.
Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. The NCAA men's basketball championship game is set after both favorites were able to pull away in the second half to secure their trip. Purdue's Zach Edey led the way for the Boilermakers' 63-50 win over NC State, and Alabama was not able to keep up with their hot shooting, and UConn dominated the final 10 minutes, winning 86-72. Purdue and UConn will face off tonight at 8:20. And in the women's tournament, the Dawn Staley-led South Carolina Gamecocks won their third national title, stopping Caitlin Clark in Iowa 87-75. Clark was able to put up 30 points, but had to do it on 28 shots. Texas baseball dropped their series to BYU over the weekend. Pitching was once again a problem with no pitchers Thursday or Saturday lasting more than 3 innings. Jalen Flores was able to add 2 more home runs to his season total over the series. And Texas will play at home and away against Texas State Tuesday and Wednesday this week. Texas softball got a hard-fought 2-1 series victory over the number 1 Oklahoma Sooners over the weekend. Texas was able to get 2 runs in the fourth on both Saturday and Sunday to get a hold on to get their first series victory over the Sooners since 2009. Freshman Katie Stewart provided a needed boost with 3 RBIs in the series, including a home run to take the lead on Sunday. Texas will be back in action Wednesday against Texas State. In the NBA, the Mavericks were able to edge out 2 wins over Golden State and Houston. Luka Doncic missed the game against the Warriors, but returned for the overtime victory against the Rockets. Irving put up 48 points on Sunday, with Luka adding 37 more. But with the Clippers also winning over the weekend, the Mavs weren't able to make up any ground on the 4 seed. And with 1 week left in the season, that will be a challenge. And in Major League Baseball, the Rangers took games 1 and 2 of their series against the Astros in lopsided fashion. The Astros were able to bounce back Sunday behind 6 more innings of only 1 hit pitching from Roniel Blanco. The 1 hit came, of course, from Adolis Garcia, who already has 5 RBIs and a home run in the series, with the final game being played tonight, with pregame starting at 6:30 here on the Horn. And that is your Horn headlines.
I do believe the big fat poll of the day actually is a great segue into the conversation that we want to have about women's basketball. So I want to man Patrick to give you guys the topic for the big fat poll of the day, and then we can segue into our conversation about what the women showcased during their national title game last night. So Patrick, give it to the people. The big fat poll of the day.
Big fat poll of the day today, 512-447-3776 is the text line number. Which rookie are you most interested in seeing next season? Is it Caitlin Clark? Are you going to watch WNBA basketball and you're interested to see what she does? Are you going to watch? That's the question. Are you going to watch WNBA basketball because of Caitlin Clark? Is she the rookie you're most interested? Because if you're not going to watch, then you can't say you're most interested in her, because you're going to watch the other rookies. If you watch that, is it Zach Edey, the 7'4" player who's going to be playing tonight? Do you want to see if his game translates to the NBA? I know a lot of people keep asking me, is he going to be a top 5 pick? And I say, I don't know if he's a first round pick. And so that is one that you say, does Zach Edey is another player of the year in college basketball not really going to play in the NBA? Is that one? Is it Caleb Williams or someone else in this NFL draft that you're really excited and interested to see? I said Texas fans may care about Jonathan Brooks. If he ends up on the Cowboys and the ACL surgery, does he come back? Can he get back to form of what he was at in the season? I think it could be one that Texas fans are at least very interested in seeing how he does next season. Or is it Wyatt Langford, phenom for the Rangers who's starting off right now. I'll let him throw in. I know he's already started his season, but they're only a few games into it. So I'll say Wyatt Langford in there as well, that he is a meteoric rise to get to the majors. Can he hold on, stay in the majors, be a part of a Rangers team that looks like they're going to do some more damage trying to defend that title? I think those are 4 good options in 4 different sports. So there's a lot you can get into of who's there. If you want to throw in somebody else, throw those in the text line. If I'm missing somebody who's a great story that you're interested to see, throw them on the text line, and we'll keep the poll going of who we think is the best. But Caitlin Clark's the one. Will you watch? Is she the one to draw you in and be the most interesting rookie that's coming out of basically this year's class?
I think she will be. I think she is. I know the WNBA is, a different monster altogether because, at the college level, she has been a star for a while. So there was a lot of build up to this crescendo, if you will. And we got it from the Final Four game, the Final Four contest between Iowa and UConn. I got 14.2 million viewers, by the way. That was more than any the NBA Finals games that the NBA Finals had in 2023. The audience peaked at 17 million viewers. It's the highest audience for any basketball game on record for ESPN. And you go look at it, it is the highest rated and the most watched women's college basketball game ever. But beat the 2023 NBA Finals, World Series, Orange Bowl, Big Ten title game, Cotton Bowl, Pac-12, Big 12, and ACC title games, Peach Bowl, Masters final round, Daytona 500, Indy 500, every tennis Grand Slam final, and every 2023 college football regular season game except for one. And like I said, I know they got great storylines. They do, because Dawn Staley is her own great personality. And I watched South Carolina. South Carolina got some ballers, like straight up. They got some ballers.
Yeah.
And, Kim Mulkey and LSU, they have their own brand of basketball and great personalities like Kim Mulkey and Angel Reese. So I would say that college basketballs, the other programs, power programs, are doing their part to be really interesting and compelling. But this is a Caitlin Clark effect thing, because we like her story, and her storyline has transcended from the sports page to the front page. So we're interested, and I will admit, I will watch if they make it accessible, which you say they will, and they'll promote the hell out of it. I'll watch to see if her game does translate to the NBA, and to see if she can dominate on the same level that she did in college. There are some saying it won't happen, but I think that's part of now the narrative, and I think that's part of the interest, is to say, okay, let's see if she can still be this type of superstar at the WNBA level. So please, WNBA, take advantage of it. The Big 3 league that she can play in, she should play an exhibition game or two there. Get Adam Silver in on this thing, have him cross-promote with the NBA. The ladies basketball, women's basketball is having a moment, and I actually am enjoying it. I'm bearing witness to it. Will I be a fan of women's basketball going forward? I have no idea. I have no idea where this is going, but I'm willing to explore the possibility of watching more Caitlin Clark wherever she goes.
Yeah, is Caitlin Clark going to be like the eclipse, where everybody's going to be an astronomer till about 2 p.m. this afternoon, and then astronomy class is over, and we don't care again ever?
Don't give a damn.
Is it that, or will she continue her quest, and people will care in the WNBA? And it really has to be this point. And we know we can play sound from Diana Taurasi. We can play sound from other pros who are basically saying, no, she's going to come here. She's going to be normal. She's going to be average.
Yep.
And that's the question, is, can she go into that world and not be average and be the best player? Because and the reality is, the WNBA is not going to be the most watched programming and not going to get up there until that you get everyone up to a certain level.
Yeah.
That there's just still a mismatch, still of points, and there's just not enough talent. That's why there's not a ton of teams, is because the talent level you need everyone to be in there to be the best player ever in college basketball, to keep that level growing and growing. But can she be one of the people to help bring where there's superstars, at least superstars, on every single team? Because you add in the Ionescu, and then Kelsey Plum, who was an all-time leading scorer in NCAA, that Caitlin Clark beat her record. And so You do add it, and you hit now teams all have at least one of those identifiable superstars. Then you can at least have those matchups every single night instead of trying to create stars based on matchups that aren't necessarily going to get public attention because people don't know the names.
And that's another thing, too, that the college basketball game had that was great. They had developed these rivalries in the last 2 or 3 years, right?
Yes.
South Carolina's only loss, I believe, the last 2 years was to Iowa last year in the Final Four. They avenged that loss in the national title game this year. Iowa lost to LSU last year in the national title game, and then they avenged that loss in the Elite Eight this year. So we know the characters. We've already decided who are the heroes and the villains create conflict creates storylines. WNBA doesn't really have that, so they got to build that. And there, like I said, there are some women and I'll give Dawn Staley some credit. Dawn Staley was really classy after they beat Iowa. And like I said, they were a better team. There's no question. Iowa had the better player, but South Carolina's a better team. There's no question. And I mean, they're on the way to being a dynasty. I didn't even realize that. I mean, they have gone 109-3 in the last 3 years.
Yeah.
They lost 3 games in the last 3 years. That is freaky and crazy. But anyway, after the game, I think she put it into I think she really contextualized things really well to put into perspective what Caitlin Clark meant for the women's game overall.
I have to congratulate Iowa on an incredible season. Awesome. And I want to personally thank Caitlin Clark for lifting up our sport. She carried a heavy load for our sport. And it just is not going to stop here on the collegiate tour. But when she is the number 1 pick in the WNBA draft, she's gonna lift that league up as well. So Caitlin Clark, if you're out there, you are one of the GOATs of our games. That we appreciate you.
There ain't no doubt taking women's basketball to another level. Now, I do think Petty sells. We know this because the women's national title game in 2023, when Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese are doing the "You Can't See Me" Tony Yayo thing, talking trash, the world is captivated by it, right? So we've decided we like Petty. It's good to promote. Petty helps you promote. There are a lot of women in WNBA now, a lot of the analysts and a lot of the players talking trash, basically. Here's Diana Taurasi on ESPN essentially saying, Caitlin Clark, the Caitlin Clark phenomenon, at least on the court, it won't be the same in the WNBA.
Right? When the college guys come out, they're waiting for them. I mean, Camilla's coming, Caitlin's coming. There's more than just that are coming. What will the league have in store for them when they get there?
Look, SVP, reality is coming.
Okay.
There's levels to this thing, and that's just life. We all went through it.
Of course.
And you see it on the NBA side, and you're going to see it on this side where, you look superhuman playing against 18-year-olds, but you're going to come with some grown women that have been playing professional basketball for a long time. Not saying that it's not going to translate, because when you're great at what you do, you're just going to get better. But there is going to be a transition period where you're going to have to give yourself some grace as a rookie. And, it might take a little bit longer for some people.
Right on. That's perfect.
I love that, by the way. Keep the trash talk going, ladies. Talk trash. Let's go viral. Let's get petty. Let's turn her, basically. You want to turn her into what Michael Jordan was for the men's game. Now, she's not Michael Jordan, but Michael Jordan became a beloved figure because when he went to the league, he had to pay his dues. The Pistons, the Bad Boy Pistons, the Celtics, they beat up Mike, and he became what Patrick kind of disagrees with. He became an underdog at that point because he couldn't break through, and he was fighting like hell every year to do it, and then finally did break through, and then became obviously the iconic figure that we know today. If she's going to be that for the women's game, if she's going to be that kind of figure, an iconic figure for the women's game, it ultimately, she's go above and beyond that. But yeah, she's going to pay her dues, and I think people will be willing to watch her, but she's got to put on the show while she does it. And that's going to be the key. Can you put on the show while you pay them dues? MJ put on the show while he did it. He's scoring 60. He's put on the show while getting beat by the Celtics and the Pistons. So that's going to be key. And then hopefully she is so iconic in like 4 or 5 years that she transforms a generation of female basketball players, and women's basketball players, like Steph has done for a generation of shooters, like, and obviously for Caitlin Clark too, probably, but like, MJ did for Kobe. And then you get a Kobe. right? You get a Kobe out of that, who is basically he patterned his game after MJ and gave us another GOAT who was just inspired by MJ's greatness. And hopefully you get what Kobe was to MJ, you get that to Caitlin Clark in 8-9 years, somewhere down the line.
And I get Diana Taurasi. I remember the conversation when she came out of college was she could go to the NBA. That was a conversation about Diana Taurasi, how good she was. She could play with the guys. She was practicing with the guys. I know she had a tryout with the Suns at a point, they worked her out. So, that was a conversation. So she understands I came out as I can play with the guys. I'm at that level. And then I had the reality check, and I had to get into it. And I'm now one of the best players in WNBA, but I went through the same thing of they were saying, you're better than any woman who's ever played the game of basketball. And then you get in and you go, okay, there's still basketball players here.
I'm not the only one.
And so, so I get where she's coming from I think because time has gone on that there was a point that Diana Taurasi was literally, that was a conversation. Could she be the first woman ever to play in the NBA? Was the conversation when she was coming out of college. She wasn't as the same kind of icon that Caitlin Clark has become. And she also played on a UConn team where, again, we said one of the things that make Caitlin Clark's story so great is she's at Iowa. So she gets the green light to go play the way she did. Diana Taurasi played at a school where it was much more, you had to be in line with what you were doing. You were playing with a ton of other really good players. So it did, even though you were really great, your stats weren't going to be the same. You couldn't show off the same way. So I think there's probably some resentment that she didn't get the same love Caitlin Clark's getting. And there's multiple reasons for that. But there's that. And then you throw the fact she knows I was the best player in college basketball up at that point, one of the best ever. And I still had to take a learning curve when I got here.
Yeah, it's fleeting. There's no doubt about that. All right, let's jump to this other college basketball story because I think it's so interesting. John Calipari is expected, or at least reportedly, he's going to sign a 5-year deal to become the next head coach at Arkansas. Yes, leaving Kentucky, where he spent, where he actually went to 3 Final Fours in his 15 years. Now, he's only won 1 tournament game in the last 5 years. That's where I think the boosters and donors have grown impatient with John Calipari. Lost to Oakland, 14 seed this year, first round of the tournament. Lost in the first round of the SEC tournament to A&M. And the report is that he has a really close relationship with John Tyson. Tyson is a billionaire heir of the Tyson Foods fortune, and they are big Arkansas boosters and donors. And apparently that's another big reason why it's so weird, because I don't know, Arkansas should be more of a power in the NIL space. I said this because they do have the Walmart family are donors and boosters of Arkansas, the Tyson family, the Tyson Foods. Jerry Jones is one of the wealthiest human beings on the planet. They have money there. And I think maybe this is the time now where they're trying to really, they're trying to pool more of those resources, Patrick, and now become more of a player in the NIL space. And John Calipari will certainly help you do that.
Yeah. And if he's got relationships, then it means he can go make that move. It's disappointing to see that how much movement is happening in college basketball now. It's disappointing to see it because it's disappointing. And this is the sense I'll say it in. It's disappointing that players don't want to stay. It's disappointing that coaches don't want to stay. And it's disappointing that fans don't want coaches to stay. That basically every single person involved in college basketball right now believes that if you don't win and if you're not doing everything every single season, it's time to move on. That's so prevalent at every level of the game that you're losing some of what made college basketball great for so long. And I get you can blame the one and done factor of the NBA. That's not great. But when everybody else is using that as an excuse to do whatever else they're going to do, then you can't blame anybody because it's everybody else's fault. That the players are leaving because the coaches are going to leave. And the coaches are leaving because the players are going to leave. And it's all the chicken or the egg. And you say, okay, well, and the donors say, well, if you don't win this year, you got to go. We got to get somebody else in here who can win. And this guy's the hottest coach right now, so we'll bring him in, and you got to go. And we're not going to give you the same amount of money. And for Calipari, there was money there. I don't know if he was still getting it. I don't know if he was getting pushback, but I know he was definitely getting it to the point where he did not want to have to put in the amount of work he was putting in just to get the money to go out and get the players that he wanted to get. He feels he may have a better path to that in Arkansas. He's going to, once again, be beloved and be the big dog when he gets to Arkansas versus now where he was somewhat of a pariah at Kentucky, a guy who's won national championships, but now you haven't won for me lately. So, and look, we know Mac Brown kind of went through that here at a point of Mac Brown went from being, won a national title, everybody loved him, to where at the end it was just a weird, awkward relationship where no one will, people were saying maybe it's time to move on. There was the Nick Saban rumor and all of that. Calipari was kind of the Mac Brown at the end part right now, where he felt that he wasn't being respected. They felt he wasn't doing enough, and it was time to move on. The crazier part about this is the third move of a carousel, and that's not where you expected Calipari to go. You do not expect him to be the move that SMU hires off USC's coach, who says he goes over there because they're in the ACC now. And so he says, if they weren't in the ACC, I'm not going. But they're in the ACC, so I'm going to now an ACC team, and they have money at SMU, so I can compete there in a conference that is a good basketball conference. And then that opens up the USC job. Musselman, for whatever reason, had a very down year last year, was a hot name coach, decided to get out of Dodge in Arkansas, go to California, take that job. And Calipari then becomes the third domino to fall, which you just don't expect. You expect the guy who's won a national championship to be the first domino, right?
Yeah.
Not, oh, well, now this job's opened up so you can get it. But that means the Kentucky job is now open. And now who's ending up in Kentucky? Now they'll say, you brought up some names earlier if you want to bring them up. And it's funny because some of these names have said no to a lot of other jobs.
Yeah, Jeff Goodman brought up Nate Oates, Scott Drew, Bruce Pearl, Billy Donovan. Some other names I've also seen just thrown out there. Brad Stevens, Jay Wright is another name that's kind of been thrown. Dan Hurley is getting thrown out there. Those are some of the names that I've just seen kind of tossed out by some of the college basketball analysts.
Yeah, and Dan Hurley, there's no reason to leave Connecticut. He's getting paid there. He's going for his second national championship tonight in 2 years. He's doing fine there. Jay Wright has said multiple occasions he does not want to come out of retirement. Nate Oates just got repaid at Alabama. I'm not sure if he would want to go. He may use it for negotiation, but that's staying in conference too. And I know Calipari stayed in conference, but normally if you want to, leave a good job, you don't necessarily want to play against your old team. You'd like to go ahead and get out of there. I'm sure they're all going to be some. Billy Donovan, that's a rough one to go back to college after how long he's been gone. Like he was a really good coach at Florida, but that is
an NBA guy now.
It's a way different game, and you got to go back to recruiting after all that too.
That's NIL and transfer portal. No, I'm good.
So I think there will be names, but it'll be curious to see if they do pull, what they do try and pull. I don't see Scott Drew leaving Baylor. I think he's got a really good thing going on. He's in a place with no state income tax, living in Waco where he can buy a mansion and be just fine for not that, just pocketing money, saving all the money in the world. When he retires, he'll live a good life. He's the king there. Who's better than him? He got rid of Kim Mulkey because they were giving money to the men's program more than the women's. He did everything on that program, and they're competing for national titles. The only reason he would want to go is if the Big 12 takes a step back financially with Texas and Oklahoma leaving. That if that actually hurt them, I think there'll still be a really good basketball conference. Kansas and Houston are still there. So that'd be the only question is they lost some financial stability, but I don't know if that would happen this season that he would want to bail from it. So you start to get down to, do they look at a Jerome Tang who comes from the Scott Drew staff, or who do they look at there? Kentucky donors, though, they're going to want some big name. So we'll see what they're able to pull off.
Yeah, no, it's a fascinating story. A couple other nuggets before we wrap this up. Pete Nakos, who is an On3 NIL analyst, says, speaking with his source, John Calipari would have all the NIL cash he wants. Arkansas is already putting plans in place. And according to Matt Jones of KSR Radio, who's covers Kentucky, he claims that neither Kentucky nor Arkansas will have to pay the Hall of Fame head coach's buyout fee. That Calipari, basically, if he leaves, there is no buyout. So he can go, and Arkansas would owe Kentucky no money, but Kentucky wouldn't have to pay the rest of his contract either. So, yeah. There's not a lot of ties left there. So there you go. Looks like Calipari will be the next head coach of the Arkansas Razorbacks, and the coaching carousel continues. All right, we come back. We'll go behind the Burn curtain, give you some updates, some nuggets, some of the notes coming from the first scrimmage of Texas spring practice. Also, we'll talk about the unfortunate situation for T'Vondre Sweat getting charged with a DWI over the weekend and what they'll do to his draft stock. All that and more right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. We'll get to some scrimmage nuggets here, some scrimmage notes from the first Longhorn scrimmage over the weekend. But also over the weekend, unfortunately, there was another Longhorn story that is very disappointing. My man T'Vondre Sweat ended up being arrested for DWI over the weekend. The reports from several different news outlets. I got this from our friends over at KView. They claimed he was booked at 2:12 p.m. I know there were some reports that said it was in the AM because usually people get booked for DWI. It's an AM. No, it was 2:12 p.m. yesterday. He was arrested on I-35 in North Austin. The bond was set at $3,000. He was out hours later, which also was, you don't see that a lot. Usually you get arrested on weekends. It takes a little bit longer. Everything moves at a glacial pace on the weekends because they don't have as many people working. And, the judge is not there, all this kind of stuff. So he was arrested and actually, I think it was out of jail within like 4 or 5 hours, something like that, because there's actually video of him being released from jail. So, he's got a good lawyer. Good for him. But yeah, very disappointing because that will inevitably show up on his the draft report for him and draft evaluation. Probably going to drop his draft stock. Dane Brugler tweeted out right after the reports, quote, according to a team source, Sweat has been upfront with NFL teams about his partying as an underclassman and made a point of emphasis in interviews that it was all in the past. Obviously, today's incident, 3 weeks from the NFL draft, won't help answer any concerns with teams. So, yeah, everybody should be responsible about drinking and driving. So, ride share, prepare to be responsible. Make sure that you get, a designated driver, that kind of stuff. But for T'Vondre Sweat specifically, 3 weeks from the draft, accomplishing your ultimate dream, make sure you're being really careful about the decisions you make. That was obviously a bad decision. I don't think it drops his draft stock, precipitously, Patrick. I think he drops from top of the second round to middle or the bottom of the second round. I still think he's a second round pick in the end.
Yeah, I think it's more about people are going to try and use it to get value. I don't know if it really raises the questions about teams and where he's at. I will also throw in, just because you have to do this in today's age, and it's until proven guilty in this country.
Very true.
I'll just throw that in there. I have no idea. I have no dog in the fight. I have nothing in there. I just like to point that out sometimes because sometimes we see the initial report and we assume that the worst has already happened. So we'll just bring that up. But I think that this is something that you look at. There's going to be a number of teams that already didn't have him that high on the board because they don't necessarily need that type of player, or they have concerns about his weight or whatever else it is, that they may put him a little bit lower than some of their other D tackles. The teams that do, I think, will probably still have them. They've already answered those questions enough in their head. They feel okay. Maybe one or two of those teams drops off or drops him a little bit lower, but most likely you'll see teams try to use it to get more value, to get him to be a late second rounder, maybe try and slip him in the third. But I still believe he'd probably be a late second rounder instead of just a high second rounder.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think ultimately for T'Vondre Sweat, we don't know the circumstance. I wonder if he blew or not into the breathalyzer, because if you don't blow, then you can fight it to get it reduced down to something else. If you blew and then it's documented what you blew, then they can charge you with, but I think they can still arrest you for DWI if you don't blow, but then you have a chance to fight it, or you have a better chance to fight it in that case. All right, so there you go. That's T'Vondre Sweat. Unfortunate news for T'Vondre Sweat, but I think his draft stock won't drop too much. Let's talk about the Longhorns and some of the reports coming out of their first spring scrimmage on Saturday. One of the reports, first of all, they actually had a couple of guys. They had a commitment from, I believe, Ricky Stewart, who was a running back there. Apparently, he was so inspired by what he saw at the scrimmage that he decided to commit on the spot. Now, he did commit to my man Jerry Hamilton of On Texas Football, so shout out to that crew doing a great job. But apparently, he was really, really inspired by the play of Jaden Blue and some of the other running backs. Jaden Blue reportedly had a really good scrimmage, broke a couple of big runs. He scored multiple times during the 11-on-11 team drill, and also during red zone work. And from what I'm hearing, the thing that makes Jaden Blue's development and his ascent really so really so inspiring, and it makes it such an effective runner now, is that he can run in between the tackles. From what I'm hearing, like his vision in between the tackles, his footwork in between the tackles, we know that he can burn to the outside. We know that he's got perimeter speed, so he can beat guys to the corner and to the edge. But what I'm hearing now is that in between the tackles, the inside zone runs, the counter and the gap schemes, you're really starting to see him elevate his game and separate a little bit in those particular runs. And last season, he was not very, I think, comfortable running a lot of inside zone and a lot of those power gap schemes. Seems like he's been working on his vision, working on his footwork, and being more of an all-around weapon as a running back. So Jaden Blue getting some love there.
Yeah.
Another report coming out. Sorry, go ahead, Patrick. Go ahead.
I was going to say it's a great thing to hear that we know CJ Baxter is a guy. We saw what he was able to do last season. To see Blue step up in that role, to have two backs in college football these days, it is very important to have two backs in there. You know, guys are going to get banged up throughout the game. You know, guys are going to get banged up throughout the season. So to have two backs, plus you talk about that two back set a lot, Rod. It'll be a good setup to be able to get Jaden Blue up to the level that you want him to be. And when you start to hear those reports that he's competing to be the guy, it just makes that running back room that much better.
Yeah, because we know Cedric Baxter is going to be the guy. I mean, he won the starting job last season before Jonathan Brooks' ascent to being a Doak Walker Award finalist. And so I think there's a lot expected of Cedric Baxter. And from what I hear, he looks really good too. But during the scrimmage, Jaden Blue really took his game to another level and showcased his talent. So you got two of those guys. And Trey Wisner also got glowing reports out of the scrimmage that he continues to look really good. On the defensive side of the ball, a lot of complimentary reports coming out about David Benda. He's the only 6th-year senior on the team right now. We know there's a competition at the other linebacker position opposite Anthony Hill. It looks like David Bender right now is the front runner in that competition. He's their most experienced linebacker, but apparently in the team drills looked really good. Blitzing from the off-ball linebacker position, providing effective pressure on the opposing quarterback. And also on defense, in addition to David Bender, who I think is going to be right now, I believe he's the leader to be the starter at that off-ball linebacker position opposite Anthony Hill. But on the defensive side, the edges also got a lot of love in the reports that I read out of the scrimmage. Colin Simmons also got a sack in the scrimmage. Also was talk that Barron Sorrell and Trey Moore were also making impact plays during the scrimmage. So we've talked about that position should be a strength for Texas on the edges with Ethan Burke and with Barron Sorrell and Trey Moore, and now Colin Simmons moving Anthony Hill around and having him rush off the edge. The edges should be a huge strength for Texas, and it looks like that was something that was evident in the first scrimmage, Patrick, for Texas, that the guys off the edge, they're going to be difference makers this season.
Yeah, I mean, you have to. That's, when you lose the interior D lineman that you lost in Sweat and Byron Murphy, you have to be able to keep that D line going with who was up next in the lineup. And that's, adding Trey Moore. Ethan Burke's supposed to be another year, and we've seen his progression from year to year. And then you add in Colin Simmons coming into that, Colton Vosick, there's so many pieces there that you have to figure there's going to be at least two that can have really good seasons. And if you have two edge rushers that have really good seasons, then it makes everything a lot easier because it's going to help that secondary as they continue to grow. It's going to help the interior D line because they don't have to worry as much about getting the pass rush. They can handle their business. And that linebacking core, that Anthony Hill's really good on it. But if David Benda steps up, how many linebackers they really have that can play at that top level? Having a pass rush, making them have to decide everything in a much shorter window, helps out everybody else in that defense.
The only turnover reportedly was a fumble by CJ Baxter in team drill. That's something, I don't know if it's something to be concerned about, but it's something to keep your eye on because remember that fumbles is one of the reasons they lost the Sugar Bowl. Those two fumbles they had. Jaden Blue had a fumble. Baxter had a fumble. So that's big. Arch Manning reportedly had a nice 30-yard touchdown pass to Amari Nyblack, the tight end position. And Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning reportedly looked really good in the red zone portion of the scrimmage. And remember, Texas, they were one of the worst red zone offenses in the country last year, 120th in touchdown percentage in the red zone. I'm sure that's going to be a point of emphasis and a focus for Sark during the offseason and in the scrimmage. And reportedly, Quinn Ewers and Arch Manning both look good in the red zone, and both of those guys had touchdowns. Also, reportedly, Jonte Cook and Ryan Wingo looked really good at the wide receiver position. I keep hearing good things about Ryan Wingo. I don't think we've heard more about any new enrollee, any of the new players, as much as we've heard about Ryan Wingo. So I'm thinking Sark is going to definitely expand that wide receiver rotation, that circle of trust I talk about, because you got Wingo, because you got DeAndre Moore, Matthew Golden, you got Isaiah Bond, Bolden even on campus right now, and we still even talking about Jonte Cook. It's a lot of high-level talent at the wide receiver position. I expect to be in consistent rotation. I think you'll narrow down the rotation by the end of the season, but I think early on, you're going to see a lot of guys at that wide receiver position to see who separates from the pack. All right, there you go. That's some spring practice nuggets from the first scrimmage for Texas over the weekend. I'm really excited about this group because I'm glad you had both, offense and defense making plays. I hate when the scrimmage reports are so lopsided, offense dominated or defense dominated, because then I'm paranoid the whole time. I'm like, okay, is the offense elite or the defense elite, or is the other phase of the game just subpar? You never really know. Here, it seems like you're getting impact plays on both sides of the ball from a lot of different players. All right, we come back. We'll get into off the record on the other side. Probably talk some Eclipse on Eclipse Day. Actually, I'm starting to see some clearer skies. So it looks like you may be able to see the eclipse totality, the line of totality down here in Texas. So we'll talk about that on the other side and some other stories from around the sports world. All that and more right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers, coming back on the horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers here. Now, Apple Leasing can help you find the car you want for the price that you want. They've been doing it here in Austin for a really long time because they do business the right way by taking care of their customers and making sure that they respect your time. They respect your time, and because of that, they know that time is money, and they want to save you both. They're going to save you time, save you money, and find you tremendous value. The pros at Apple Leasing can help you get the price you want, the payment you want on the car you want, and all it takes from your end is one phone call or one click on Apple Leasing's website, and you'll get a quote on any make or model vehicle that you want. They can even give you an estimate on the value of your trade-in right over the phone. Apple Leasing's simple interest easy lease is just that. It's simple and easy. It's going to give you more flexibility, which is going to give you more possibilities and options to help you find the vehicle that fits you best, but more importantly, the vehicle that fits your budget best. Inflation is affecting everything. Everything seems overpriced these days. That's why leasing makes more sense than ever. You're only paying for the part of the car you're actually using. So call Apple Leasing today, 512-346-9977. That's 512-346-9977. Let them see how much money they can save you, because they get all the same discounts and all the same incentives that the dealers do, except my friends at Apple Leasing, they like to pass those savings on to you, the customer. So give them a call, 512-346-9977, or visit appleleasing.com. That's appleleasing.com. All right. We'll get to some Eclipse Day news here in a second. But Patrick, I didn't ask you about WrestleMania. Did you watch WrestleMania over the weekend? Did you take it in? I know you had plans to
So
at
I
least pay
again,
attention to it.
it was a very busy weekend for me, so I did not.
Okay, that's right.
So I rewatched a lot of pieces of Saturday last night when I got home
Okay.
while I was doing some other stuff. So I watched that. I'll watch Sunday today, but I didn't get to watch any of it live, and I'm trying to keep back up with it now. But I watched some of Saturday on, but I've not fully caught back
Okay.
up on it.
Then maybe we'll talk about it tomorrow because apparently the Roman Reigns Cody Rhodes match was crazy.
Yeah, that's why I've not. So I was going to try and watch it
Is that
all
the match
yesterday.
everybody's talking about right now?
Yeah, so
Like
it was
okay.
well. So on Saturday was Cody Rhodes and Seth Rollins versus Roman Reigns and The Rock in a tag team match,
Yes.
and that was there.
Okay.
I know that Jason Kelsey made an appearance.
Yeah, Jason
Kelsey come out and helped out Rey Mysterio.
Yeah, I saw that. I saw that on social media. It was apparently some people were saying. That's why I wanted to ask you that it was one of the best WrestleManias ever. Like they thought they did a really good job.
Everything that I saw, and I fast forward through pieces
yeah.
of it too. Last
Well,
because I was trying to
it's
get
too damn long. It's a 2-day event.
It was like 4.5 hours of stuff, and I had probably an hour and a half of time last night to watch it while I was going to bed, and so
exactly.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I was doing a lot of other work, and then
Adulting.
had friends in town. So it was a busy weekend where I wasn't, and then was watching, other sports. So I didn't have time for it necessarily, but it is a plan today that I'm going to watch the Eclipse for whatever, 4 minutes, however long it is. And then I'll watch some WrestleMania too while I'm getting some work done. And I'll see that. I've been trying to stay away from it enough. I know what happened, but I don't know how it's all happened.
You don't know the details.
Yeah.
No, I got enough friends who still enjoy wrestling who text me and be like, "Oh man, that was amazing! You really missed out on one of the best WrestleManias." So we'll see where it stands all time, but I've heard good things. Okay, before we get to the break here, the Illinois State Police issued a special bulletin because of the eclipse, right? I guess they are somewhere in the line of totality or whatever. They issued a new bulletin warning about overdoses, drug overdoses. They claim are going to be a big deal during the eclipse because people trying to enhance their experience with an altered state of mind, and some people believe connections to different realms and stuff are actually accessible during the eclipse, or you got to get really high to do that kind of stuff. So just that's also a threat. Like people are going to be really abusing drugs during that time. And also what's so scary is like they put out a terror alert too in Illinois.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
the
know,
drug arrest thing, but the terror alert thing was like, oh man, that's scary.
I don't know if that's for domestic or foreign. I did see someone that said there is a total eclipse that happens every 18 months somewhere in the world.
So like there's chase it.
So no, but so it isn't something that people who are saying this is doomsday, that this is not necessarily an event it's an event for in America and for it happening here, and especially for Austin and all that. Very rare. Definitely something you should check out. But as far as worldwide, the complete rarity of the event, I don't know if it's as fully rare as some people are making it out to be.
Yeah.
Where they're saying this is apocalypse times type of rareness. I don't think it's quite that rare. I don't think it's quite
it's not
rare.
that much of an astronomical outlier.
Yeah,
but it is rare. Yeah.
And if you want to imbibe, don't imbibe too much. Know your limits. Know what you can do, and then don't drive. Don't get on the roads. Just enjoy yourself and take a nap.
And be responsible.
Be
responsible about it. I agree. And do that with people you trust. Don't do that with some random strangers that you just met. Some randos. That ain't cool either. All right, we come back. We'll get into this Micah Parsons story. Cowboys fans, something weird's going on with the Cowboys and Micah Parsons. We'll discuss it. Also, we got a Rangers report on the other side, too. We'll talk about the Rangers and the Astros. Whew, the Astros finally came back to make it interesting, but those first two games were ugly. UGLY for the Astros. Rangers starting off hot in that series. I will also get into that, and also Rod's rant of the day on the other side. We got a lot to cram into the next hour. We'll do so coming up. This is the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers coming back on the horn. Welcome back to the Rodcast. It is a smooth so Monday, or at least that's what my man Patrick calls it. He's the ideal, coming up with the musically themed days of the week, and to transition you smoothly from a relaxing, fun-filled weekend to the stress of the work week. My man Patrick does it with a smooth so Monday, and we appreciate that. Also, he has the big fat poll of the day that is already up for you. You can go check that out on the text line 512-447-3776. We'll get that posted via social media as well. Patrick, let the people know what the topic of the big fat poll of the day is today.
Big fat poll of the day today. Which rookie are you most interested in seeing next season? Is it Caitlin Clark? Will she make you watch the WNBA? Will you watch to see what she does at the next level? Will her power of the viewing ratings transition to the WNBA? Is it Caleb Williams? Is NFL, does it carry enough power that if it was whatever first pick, is it someone else in the NFL draft? You say, I'm more interested in seeing an NFL rookie than any other sport because it is the NFL.
Your team. If your team's first round pick, you could be all about.
You could, but if it's a cornerback, it's probably not as much. If it's if the Cowboys take an O lineman, you're probably not thrilled to see an O lineman. And man, I'd rather see O lineman. You'd rather see another rookie. You want to see a quarterback usually over that. Is it Zach Edey? Are you curious to see, does his game transition to the NBA? If that's somebody, it's just not a great NBA class. It's just not a great NBA class. So I don't know who else I'd put in there from the NBA. Or I put in there Wyatt Langford, who has risen up very quickly from his draft last season into being a rookie with the Rangers. Does he stay on the roster? What does he do? Is he somebody that you think is up there? We posted up now. It is on X. It is on, you can text in 512-447-3776. Let us know what you think about that.
There you go. I like that. Thank you, Patrick, for the big fat poll of the day. We appreciate that conversation. Also, we'll get to Rod's rant of the day. That'll be coming up later on this segment. If not, then we'll push it to next segment. We do have a Rangers report, so we're talking about the Rangers and the Astros and their series. The Rangers were dominating that series for the first two games. It was hard to watch as an Astros fan. Astros finally made things interesting. Got a 3-1 win. Still doesn't make Astros fans feel any better because their team 3-7 right now through the first 10 games.
Yes.
I was hopefully trying to turn that around. But we'll talk Rangers in our Rangers report coming up here later on this segment. Patrick also will have one more Horn headlines for you, get you caught up, informed, educated on the big headlines of the day. And yes, we'll hit that Micah Parsons story. I believe it was Sean Sharif of 105.3 The Fan who threw it out there, said he's got some sources, and we know he does. He's pretty dialed in. They're saying the Cowboys are growing a little bit frustrated with some of the antics of Micah Parsons. So we'll talk about that, play that audio. Then we'll balance that out with some Texans conversation and when we go into Rod's rant of the day. So we'll do that. You can always, like I said, participate. Hit us up on the text line 512-447-3776 or go to hornfm.com or go to Horn FM in the Twitterverse. Matter of fact, speaking of the Twitterverse, Patrick Davis said, it's Patrick Davis. I'm at Rod Babers in the Twitterverse. All right. Before we get to all the big stories, the Cowboys and the Texans, and also I want to get into this Bronny James story at one point because it is interesting. It's so weird now. It seems like every week there's another development in the Bronny James story, and everything's so cryptic around them and what's happening. And nobody really knows. His head coach doesn't know. LeBron claims he doesn't really know what's going on. The USC head coach like, I haven't talked to him. I don't know what's going on. I'm like, who is talking to Bronny? Because he's apparently everybody is pretty, I don't know, kept in the dark on what's going on with Bronny James. So I don't know. I want to ask Patrick about it because Patrick, I'm sure, has a great opinion on him. And I think the latest, we'll get to that. If we have time, we'll get to it. Yeah, because like I said, I know Patrick's got an opinion about that. Before we get to any of those stories, let's have my man Patrick inform us and educate us on all the big headlines of today with our Horn headlines. Patrick, will you please do us the very good favor of doing us the Horn headlines, please?
All right, your Horn headlines brought to you by Top Gun Rentals and Lawn Equipment. The NCAA men's basketball championship game is set after both favorites were able to pull away in the second half to secure their trip. Purdue's Zach Edey led the way for the Boilermakers' 63-50 win over NC State, and Alabama was not able to keep up their hot shooting in the second half as UConn dominated the final 10 minutes, winning 86-72. Purdue and UConn will face off tonight at 8:20. In the women's tournament, the Dawn Staley-led South Carolina Gamecocks won their third national title, stopping Caitlin Clark in Iowa 87-75. Clark was able to put up 30 points, but only shot 35% from the field to do it. Texas baseball dropped their series to BYU over the weekend. Pitching was once again a problem with no pitchers Thursday or Saturday lasting more than 3 innings. Jalen Flores was able to add 2 more home runs to his season total over the series. In some good news, Texas will play a home game and away game, a home and away this Tuesday and Thursday against Texas State. Texas softball got a hard-fought 2-1 series victory over the number 1 Oklahoma Sooners over the weekend. Texas was able to get 2 runs in the 4th on both Saturday and Sunday and hold on to get their first series victory over the Sooners since 2009. Freshman Katie Stewart provided a needed boost with 3 RBIs in the series, including a home run to take the lead on Sunday. Texas will be back in action Wednesday against Texas State. In the NBA, the Mavericks were able to edge out 2 wins over the Golden State Warriors and Houston Rockets. Luka Doncic missed the game against the Warriors, but returned for the overtime victory over the Rockets. Irving put up 48 points on Sunday, with Luka adding 37 more in the overtime game. But with the Clippers also winning over the weekend, the Mavs weren't able to make up any ground on the 4th seed in the West, with only 1 season left to go in the season. With only 1 week to go left in the season. And in Major League Baseball, the Rangers took games 1 and 2 of the series against the Astros in lopsided fashion. The Astros were able to bounce back Sunday behind 6 more innings of only 1 hit pitching from Roniel Blanco. But the 1 hit came, of course, from Adolis Garcia, who has already got 5 RBIs and a home run in the series, with the final game being played tonight, with pregame starting at 6:30 here on the Horn. And that is your Horn headlines.
All right, thank you, Patrick, for the Horn headlines. We'll get back to talking about Rangers and Astros. As a matter of fact, last game of that series, right? Tonight?
Yes.
Is that tonight?
Yes, they'll play, but they play. I believe they play again this weekend. So I think they finish this series and they play again real soon right after. They'll play tonight on the Horn, 6:30 pregame.
All right, so we'll get to a Rangers report, give you some little Rangers news, notes, and nuggets coming up here later on in this segment. Raj, ramp the day. If we have to push that to the next segment, we'll do that. If we have a long, lengthy conversation about these Dallas Cowboys here, but I want to get to this audio, Patrick, if you will, from the 105.3 The Fan. I believe it was from them Friday, and it was Shan Sharif. They're having a segment talking about Micah Parsons' value. They were talking about his 5th-year option and how much the Cowboys are going to have to pay to sign him to a long-term extension, make him the highest paid defensive player. So that's the context. And then within this discussion, Shan drops a nugget of basically inside information from his sources with the Dallas Cowboys. Listen to the bombshell that Shan drops here, and then Patrick and I'll come back and discuss it. Here is Shan Sharif on 105.3 The Fan.
I have heard from way too many people this offseason. Way too many. I'm talking about at least 4 different people that Micah has worn thin there. Now, I don't know how much is true and how much it actually hurts. I don't know whether this is the behavior of a typical superstar. I don't know how damaging it is, but all I do know is this. I've heard from way too many people. If Micah Parsons was out of there, there'd be a decent amount of people inside the Ford Center at the Star in Frisco smiling or breathing a sigh of relief. That is my hot take statement that to me is really close to factual about just dealing with him.
Okay, there you go. He is saying that some of the antics from Michael Parsons may be wearing thin with the Dallas Cowboys. I'll throw this out there. It immediately reminded me of the Jesse Holley comments. Now, Jesse Holley has a lot more credibility in the locker room because he is a former player. He's a former Dallas Cowboy himself. So he still's got really deep ties and connections with that organization. And when he came out and said Micah Parsons was the most selfish player on the Cowboys roster and doesn't want to play linebacker and only wants to be great for Micah and doesn't want to be great for the team, I thought to myself, damn, that sounds personal. It sounds like it is personal, and it wasn't personal. Turns out it wasn't a personal thing. He said that. He's like, no, this ain't personal. I said it's either personal, which it wasn't, or he's got a rock solid source that's so deep in the Cowboys organization telling him that, and so trustworthy that he feels like when I'm throwing this out there about Micah, it's either worth it to lose credibility in the locker room with the guys because I got a rock solid source and I don't even need those connections to be my source anymore. All right. Or like I said, the rock solid source he believes is giving him information that is as close to credible as it can get, unless it's an eyewitness account of himself. It is as close to credible as he could ever get. And is the most credible possibly in the Cowboys organization, other than coming from the coach of the player himself. And that's why he would come out and say something that could be so damning, like that he's the most selfish player. He could have, beat around the bush a little bit. He could have been a little bit more gracious in the way he said that. It's not what you say, it's how you say it. He did not pull any punches. Most selfish player on the Cowboys roster, and he only wants to win for Micah. And then started going to specific examples about what he didn't do to foster team building, didn't have the guys over to his place, doesn't want to mentor young guys, all these little things. I'm like, man, that's a lot of detailed information for a guy that's not playing anymore, and to come that hard, to go ham on the best player arguably on the team and the face of the team. And I think Jesse Holly's source, whoever it was, the rock solid source he had, Patrick, is one of, I think Shan said he had like 4 different people. I think it's one of Shan's sources too.
Yeah.
Same thing. And I don't doubt that it's coming from somebody high up in the Cowboys organization, that they are trying to hurt draft stock and hurt negotiation leverage for a guy like Micah Parsons, and drop his overall value period to the team based on these reports that they're growing tired and frustrated with him, and that he's a selfish player, and they got to have something to knock him with, because otherwise they have no leverage in negotiation. And Des Bryant recently, he had a tweet that supports that theory that the Cowboys, this is their MO and they're negotiating with a player. He tweeted out, "Ish, I know how this go, SMFH. And Michael Parsons, this what happens whenever it's time to get paid, ... So he's saying, this is what the Cowboys do. He got paid by the Cowboys, had a 5-year, $70 million deal. I think he signed $45 million guaranteed, but he's been on the record multiple times saying, that was a very angst-filled, tension-filled negotiation, and the Cowboys, they fight dirty, or they negotiate dirty."
Yeah, and I mean, and they're not the only team that does this. Multiple teams do this kind of thing, but I can believe that. I definitely could believe that's part of it. I think there's probably also something to be said that Dan Quinn was a bit more protective of Micah Parsons, that when Dan Quinn was there, he could take the blame for anything that, defensively, game planning, or anything else Micah did. That was Dan Quinn's decision, not Micah's decision. And now that Dan Quinn's gone, he doesn't have that layer of protection on him anymore. So some more people may be speaking out about him and speaking out in that way. But it is. I agree with you too. This has kind of always been, Jerry Jones has always had that passive aggressive way of critiquing his team and seeing the change he wants. If you leave your franchise in a way where people are hearing a lot of times what they're expected to do through the media, that, you're going to a post-game response and say, well, if Dak wants to be a Cowboy, you got to win playoff games. Go, well, are you having this conversation with Dak, or are you telling us this? And he does that with multiple players in different ways. Fumbles cost us. Okay, well, go tell the player that you need to do this.
Yeah.
Things don't always need to be dealt in public. Jerry does a lot of his stuff like that. And this may be one of his ways of not only saying contract negotiations, but Micah, I want you to play linebacker. I need you to help stop the run, because I can't afford to bring in somebody else to stop the run if you're not going to do it for that money. But if I tell you that, then you're going to get mad at me. So I'm just going to tell the media or leak it out through other people that you're being selfish because you want to play run defense. And
I can believe that too.
And so I think there's multiple pieces of it. But at the end of the day, it all comes down to their rights. If Micah Parsons will not play run defense, then he is not helping the team win. He has to be a better run defender. Now, if he was willing to do it and Dan Quinn wasn't putting him in those situations, and that's also a thing that could be true. So, but he has to be better at the run defense, or this is all somewhat warranted, because he's just going for the glory stats, and he's not going to. It's tight ends who don't block. You could be the best receiving tight end in the world. If you don't block, you're not always helping your team win.
Yeah, you're a one-dimensional player.
Yeah.
And that makes it easy to game plan against it, because if Micah is a subpar, below average run defender, then we're just going to run at him over and over and over again, and we're going to limit the amount of times that he actually can be a elite pass rusher.
Yeah.
And then we can double him, and then we can chip him. So I agree with you. I think a lot of this is on Micah to take his game to the next level, but it does strike me as kind of negotiating tactic by the Dallas Cowboys. And hell, if the Dallas Cowboys, listen, if they're going to truly blow this thing up, because right now everybody's operating with, kind of a contract year mindset, because lame duck coach Mike McCarthy, Dak Prescott will most likely end up playing the last year on his contract, which is rare for a franchise quarterback, especially coming off in a second-team All-Pro year and his best season ever. You got CeeDee Lamb, who still hasn't been signed to a contract. Well, if you're not going to have Dak, why the hell would you have CD? Why would you sign CD to a $25 million a year deal if you're not even going to keep Dak Prescott there? It doesn't make sense. And Michael Parsons on his 5th-year option, still got control of him for another year with that another 2 years, because he's in his 4th year with that 5th-year option. But yeah, if you are going to rebuild, I guess you could rebuild around Micah, but you might need the picks that you get for Micah Parsons or CeeDee Lamb. You might need the picks that you get from trading those guys just to help you rebuild, because right now the Cowboys don't necessarily have a lot of draft capital in the future to rebuild with. And to get themselves a big-time future franchise quarterback. So we've talked about a little bit, and I think in Dallas they're talking about it too. If the Cowboys indeed get to the worst-case scenario where they have to rebuild this whole damn thing, you most likely are going to have to trade Micah and trade CD, stockpile draft picks, and then that'll be your way to accelerate the rebuild going forward, to get your quarterback and to get you some pieces. That sounds crazy, because both of those guys are all pros you drafted and developed into being first-team all-pro players. But like I said, if you don't have Dak and you're going to rebuild, it's going to be hard to rebuild, really hard to rebuild. Making Micah the highest-paid defensive player in the history of the NFL, making CeeDee Lamb the highest-paid receiver in the league, and then having not really any draft capital and getting nothing in return for a Dak Prescott.
And still paying him a ton of dead cap.
And so, exactly. Right?
And there's still a ton of dead cap. So you're still hamstrung by dead cap at that point. So you're not able to bring in somebody else to replace him. You're gonna have to lean heavily on the draft, which you've always done, but even more heavily, which again is where you need draft picks. And that's a question of, there's other guys, Trayvon Diggs, Deron Bland, where do they end up in the trades? Because those are some of your higher paid players that that one is you've signed, and Deron Bland is super value right now, but you're gonna have to re-sign him next year or the year after. And so if you say all of those pieces, there's a lot of pieces moving around. And if you don't achieve your goals, it feels like there's no point in paying Micah Parsons the highest paid if you're not going to be good for 2 or 3 years.
Totally
and,
agree.
If you want to build that place back up, get prime value for him at 25, 26 years old, and you can turn it around. But that's, there's somewhat diminished trade value on a guy like that, because you do know you have to make him the highest paid defensive player in the league on the trade. On the flip of that, if you're going to rebuild, that's a guy that there's going to be tons of value for.
I think the only comparison of a guy who's been traded like that in their prime as a pass rusher would be Khalil Mack. I think Khalil Mack went for a first rounder. Maybe went for multiple first rounders.
Yeah,
first and a third.
From when the Bears traded
right?
for him.
Yes, I believe that's the case, but I got to go back and check it. But Micah Parsons will go for an unprecedented amount of draft value in terms of picks. He would go for. I would try to get two ones for Micah, 2 1s and then some, 2 1s and a player, and 2 1s and a mid-round pick. I think you got to try to get 2 1s for Micah. You're talking about potentially a guy that's going to be a Hall of Fame pass rusher, who right now the only pass rusher in NFL history that has been on this accelerated track that he's on right now is Reggie White. So, yeah, I mean, in that case, like I said, you got to make sure you get maximum value for that dude, man. So, yeah, 2 1s plus. 2 1s plus is where I'd start. If I don't get that, then I may be stubborn enough to try to keep him. But this is all worst case scenario for the Cowboys. They shouldn't even have to worry about this. They should end up, re-signing Dak and re-signing all these guys, but we don't know how things are going to go for him right now because I will admit I didn't expect to be here talking about Dak playing out his last year of that contract next season. I didn't expect Mike McCarthy to be a lame duck coach at this point too. I didn't expect CeeDee Lamb not to have a contract extension by this time, considering he's an All-Pro. And Micah, they're slow playing Micah, it looks like right now too. So this is all for a reason. They got a plan, and I think the plan may be that they're open to blowing it up. That is actually a real possibility for them, and I think for Cowboys fans, it's a scary possibility too.
The Khalil Mack trade was 2 firsts, but there was also a second thrown in by the Raiders. So it was Khalil Mack in a second
offset it.
To offset the other first. So that was what it was. So it was 2 firsts, but they threw a second in. So it wasn't really 2 firsts. It was a move up from a second to a first.
Okay. So really, I don't know if there's been a comparison to what Micah would go for, what the price would be to trade a Micah Parsons, because we've never really had a player like in his prime on this type of pace.
Yeah.
Be even available for a trade.
No, and then he was a second-round pick when he got traded to the Chargers. Second-round pick trade. So
yeah,
he's no Brandon Cooks.
Hey, Brandon Cooks, man, that guy kept his trade. He kept that trade value up for a long time. What did he go for? 3 different first rounders, or
I think it was 2 first and a second, or something like that, or 2 seconds. It was something ridiculous.
Right.
It may have been 3, but it was a ridiculous amount of value that he kept.
I think when they did 3, they included the initial draft pick.
Yeah,
I think that was. Yeah, they include the initial one. I think that's how they got to 3, but still, yeah, that's pretty wild. All right, let's get to our Rangers report. We'll push the Raj rant. We'll push that to next segment. Let's get to the Rangers report here and talk about the Rangers and the Astros.
The Rangers report is brought to you by Texas Truck and Trailer.
All right, the Rangers winning this series right now, 2-1. The Astros did get a win, thank God, finally, in Game 3. They barely squeaked one by. They got a 3-1 win over the Rangers. And as you pointed out, that was actually, if you're an Astros fan watching, that was actually a win that should give you a lot of optimism because of the performance of Raniel Blanco, who basically no-hit the Rangers through 6 innings. And the Rangers only had 2 singles, I believe, against Raniel Blanco and 3 relievers. So Blanco only allowed he no hit them, and I believe allowed 1 hit. But then between the 3 relievers, they managed only 2 singles against them and 2 relievers as well.
No, that's what, and of course we say it's Garcia, because Adolis Garcia is the Astros killer. He came out in that first game and dominated. Got another run in the second game, another RBI. Just always plays well against those Astros.
Yeah, and man, the right now the bullpen for the Rangers has just been phenomenal. It really has been just a huge strength for them. The Rangers bullpen through the first 9 games of the season, 2.08 ERA, 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, a 200 batting average allowed by the Rangers bullpen. They have been fantastic.
Yeah.
So far this season. They're everything we thought the Astros bullpen would be, actually. Because the Astros bullpen was supposed to be like a top 5 bullpen. It's actually been a bottom 5 bullpen so far. The Astros bullpen is allowing like 7.31 ERA with a 308 batting average allowed. That is crazy.
Yeah.
That's wild.
No, I mean, I think we're seeing what Bruce Bochy's bringing to this team is in the second year, he's able to bring this team up, let them be the plucky underdogs going through and fighting all season long, that they, no one believed in them and they were going against, the evil empire and whatever else.
Yeah.
They go through that. They win the World Series, come back this year, still have that attitude that they're not getting the respect that they should deserve, that they need to go prove it again. And so far they're proving it this season.
Would they have 30 hits in the first 2 games of this series?
Yeah.
I believe the Rangers
they
had 16 in game 1. They had 15 in game 2. That was ugly. They had, I believe it was that's why I was so pessimistic, and I'm glad the Astros got a win 3-1 because they needed it. Astros now 3-7. So Astros fans still not feeling good about the season. But those 2 games, and I remember I told the same, if the Astros come out slow and they come out lethargic, the Rangers are going to put it on them.
Yeah.
And I told you it's going to put on, and they exactly what they did. Those 2 games, those were back-to-back games in which all 9 Rangers got a hit against the Astros. So it ain't no fun if your homies can't have none. And also, it was the second straight night where 7 of the 9 Rangers starters reached base multiple times. Yeah. It was. Yeah, it was not good.
Not good.
It was not good. And then
And
the
if you're a
Astros
Rangers fan, it was great, but
no, sorry. For the Astros fans, it's not good for the Astros. It is a Rangers report. So we're giving some love to the Rangers. But naturally, my Astros fandom comes through. And yeah, that's what this series is all about. It's arguably the best rivalry in sports right now, considering both clubs coming off back-to-back championships for either club. And then the Rangers look like they're going in a different direction than the Astros right now.
Yeah,
that's unfortunate.
Well, we'll see tonight. Framber Valdez taking the man. Andrew Haney for the Rangers. Framber Valdez for the Astros. Framber has been okay so far, but he loses it at a point in the season. The Rangers have been a team to pounce when a guy starts to lose it. They're pretty deep in this lineup too, where it doesn't really matter what point in the lineup that they're in. They seem to be able to getting hits and starting to knock guys out. So we'll be able to see if Framber Valdez, how many innings can he give to this Astros team tonight, because the Rangers pounce early on Framber and get him in trouble early. They pull him out, and that's not a great way to start your week when you got to play baseball all week long for the Astros, and then go back and then meet the Astros. Astros and Rangers play again starting Friday in Houston. So they will start another series on Friday. So it's a big game for the Astros to try and not get further behind. But the Rangers, you put that separation, a 3-1 victory in a series that early is good separation early in that division.
It is, man. The Rangers look scary. I'm not gonna lie about it. They look like a scary baseball team, and I'm not even sure if they're rounding into form yet. They just have so much talent. Bullpen now looks great for them as well. Remember last year, they won the World Series with, I want to say it was like the 23rd or 24th ranked bullpen, somewhere around there, and they still were able to win the World Series this year. Bullpen pitching at a really high level for the Rangers. So, like I said, that they're a scary proposition. All right, so we'll have that matchup between the Rangers and the Astros right here on the Horn coming up later on tonight, because we are your official station for the world champion Texas Rangers. I can admit that.
Put some respect on it.
Put some respect on that. Like I said, I styled myself world champion Texas Rangers. Oh, no disrespect here, man. I got a lot of respect for the Rangers. That is our Rangers report. So we appreciate the support here, and we appreciate our sponsor of our Rangers report.
The Rangers Report is brought to you by Texas Truck and Trailer, your premier truck accessory dealer.
All right, we're going to push through the Raj rant of the day to the next segment. We'll get to that, try to balance things out. I saw a little factoid about the Texans I want to share, and we'll get to this Bronny news. Bronny news is weird. What is going on with Bronny James? I'm sure they got a plan, but nobody knows what it is. We'll have that coming back right here on the Rodcast, featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn. Rod Davis coming back on the Horn. Hey, what's up, folks? Lifetime Longhorn, Rod Babers here. Let me tell you about Dr. Greg Eckert and his all-star team, because Dr. U does a great job. As a matter of fact, I owe him a huge debt of gratitude, because Dr. U actually saved me from a disastrous situation. I went in for a checkup, went in for a cleaning. I thought everything was okay, but turns out when the checkup went down, Dr. U and his all-star team, they actually found that my wisdom teeth were growing in sideways. Had to fix that. It was a dire dire situation that could have become a disastrous situation. So they informed me about everything that would happen. They educated me about the entire process, about the entire procedure, and I got it done. I actually had 4 wisdom teeth removed, was back at work in 2 days. It was easy peasy, and now thanks to Dr. Eckert and his all-star team of professionals, I am right now ecstatic because my dental health is better than ever. And you don't need to ignore your dental health and dental hygiene for any reason. Maybe it's just been a while since you've been to the dentist. That was the same case with me. And I went to Dr. Eckert, and look where I'm at. They've taken care of me, and my dental health and dental hygiene are better than ever. And this could be you as well. You hear my man Patrick, you hear us on the horn talk about Dr. Eckert, numerous testimonials about what he's done for all of us, and he can do the same for you. It doesn't matter if it's general dentistry, it could be anything from a teeth whitening, a porcelain crowns, veneers, dental implants, full mouth reconstruction, even root canal therapy, whatever it takes to ensure you're getting the best quality dental care available. That's what Dr. Eckert and his all-star team are all about. As a matter of fact, right now, he can give you a brand new smile in just one day. It sounds too good to be true. It's not. No, it's just Dr. You. So give him a call, 512-345-3166. That's 512-345-3166. He understands that a confident smile can truly change your life, and he wants to change your life for the better. So what are you waiting for? Give him a call, 512-345-3166, or visit dreckert.com, DRUECKERT.com. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast. Time to get to Rod's rant of the day. I try to balance out the Cowboys talk. Usually we're heavy Cowboys, but I'm trying to balance out the Cowboys talk with a little more Texans talk. The Texans are getting a lot of buzz around the NFL these days because they've done a really good job of building this roster, and people are really excited about this Texans roster, and a lot of people have them as the number one threat, the top threat to the Kansas City Chiefs in their dynastic run. And the more and more research I do about the champion, so the division championship they won last season, and then the playoff run they run last season, it's remarkable because they not only did it with a rookie head coach and a rookie quarterback that hadn't been done since 1920, and they also had more injuries than any team in the NFL. Remember I told you about that. They had the most injuries on the offensive line in the league, most injuries on offense in the league. If you look at adjusted games lost, and the fifth most injuries on defense. So with all those injuries, they still managed to win a division and win a playoff game. And also the inexperience, right? D'Amico Ryans, brand new to being a head coach. Bobby Sloak had never been a play caller before. We know CJ Stroud, rookie quarterback. So if you add the experience and you assume the injury luck, can't be worse. So it'll be better. We just don't know how much better, but it won't be as bad and it won't be worse than it was last year because you were the most injury-riddled team in the NFL. You were a mass unit. So you throw all that in the mix and you throw out how aggressive Nick Caserio is being right now. He's had 9 more trades than anybody else in the NFL since he took over as GM. He's being really aggressive because he's got the money. He's Brewster's Millions now. You got the quarterback on the rookie contract. You got a lot of money to spend, and he's spending. He's uber aggressive. Tried to trade for other guys like Keenan Allen and Arik Armstead. Didn't even work out. So he's been uber aggressive. And I think the reason he is being aggressive is because he understands last year they actually overachieved considering the circumstances against him, the injuries, the inexperience. And I found this little factoid. They were 6th overall. You can argue right around 5th because what separated 5th and 6th were just a couple of reps and a couple of snaps. But they were 6th in the NFL in total rookie snaps. And that's another factor I didn't think about. That they were one of the youngest teams in the NFL in terms of the amount of rookies that were playing. Now, they were an older team because Caserio signed, if you look at average age, they were an older team. Caserio signed a lot of vets. But if you just look at amount of rookie snaps played, like I said, they were 6th in the NFL. So that's another reason why you consider that they overachieved last year, that maybe they're ahead of schedule. Because the assumption is that those guys had played, and a lot of that was CJ Stroud, of course, and Will Anderson, of course, that those guys now, if you look at that rookie class, those guys will be better and more experienced, and you should assume you're going to get another leap of improvement from those guys too. So that's why I think Nick Caserio is being so aggressive. He's seeing all the things that I'm seeing, but also doing the research on last year's team. There's no way that we've seen a team deal with that much novelty, inexperience, and bad luck and still be able to win a division and win a playoff game. It's been a really long time since we've witnessed that in the NFL. And I think that's why he's like, nah, hell no, we're going all in. Because if everything swings back, if the luck swings back our way this season, then we're gonna hit, and we're potentially gonna, be able to maximize his talent, make an AFC title game, or even better potentially.
Yeah, and I mean, I think if you look at, he's right, thinks he's riding a hot hand, betting on, look at what their scouts have done in recruiting and scouting the NFL draft, that they had so many young players in this draft, that he's been signing guys to mercenary deals, and he seems to be hitting on a lot of them. So if we say he's hitting on all these and he's riding his hot hand, he's betting on himself at that point, why would you not keep riding your hot hand? And why would you not say, I can go out and get a running back and Joe Mixon, and you guys think I can't sign somebody and I'll get take one? Well, I'll get Joe Mixon. I don't have a wide receiver one. Well, I'll go get Stephon Diggs, and I'll just keep betting on myself that I'm making the right decisions, that we're making the right decisions as a team, and that we can go into the draft and make the right decisions there, that I have the confidence to go into this offseason and continue to bet on myself that I'm making the right decisions so that I can take this team to the next level and not be so anxious about every single move. What's a positive? What's the negative? Do I stand a chance of hurting my team? Just kind of going in and just really flying by the seat of your pants on some of this. and trusting that you're going to be doing the right thing.
Yeah, no, I think you're right about the confidence growing too. That's why he's becoming more active making trades, because the trades have worked.
Yeah.
If they hadn't worked and he hadn't hit and he hadn't been getting such, great value in return, some of he's given up in the Stephon Diggs deal, avoiding the last 3 years, Joe Mixon deal, signing him to a contract extension. We can debate about how much value he obtained and how much value that he decided to give away essentially and lose in those deals. But there's no doubt people love the acquisition, and he is getting, proven commodities, and he's filling in holes in the roster. So I think you're right. I think he's confident now that he knows what he's doing. He's like, no, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I've perfected a process now. And now we can be even more, we can accelerate the process. We can be even more aggressive. So I think you're right about that, man. If he hadn't hit, who knows? Because that trade that he made for last year in the draft to get CJ Stroud and Will Anderson, that was highly criticized because he gave up so much draft capital. And now nobody mentions the draft capital and nobody cares because he hit.
And that was the draft capital he gave up in their minds was a first-round pick this year. Or not a first round, I'm sorry, a number 1 overall pick. They thought the Texans were going to be awful again.
Yes.
So in that trade, he said, no, I told you I'm doing this the right way. I bet I gave up our pick, not Cleveland's, because I thought we could be that good.
He did. You're right. He did.
And so that, and then, taking that gamble and it paying off and beating Cleveland in the playoffs. So you have the better draft pick, all of those pieces in it. I think, he's just been able to trust his hand and trust his scouts. I mean, 'cause it's not just him. It's having the scouting department in the NFL and in college to be able to say, I think we can hit on these drafts. I can trust that I'll trade out of that first round because they gave me the second round grades, and we don't have the first round grades on these. So I have full confidence trading back because this is what my scouts, this is what my draft analysts, this is what they say is going to happen. So I trust them and I can move back. And I trust in our NFL scouts that they say, this is what the reports we have on Diggs. This is what you're going to have to do to get him to be happier. This is the reports we have on Joe Mixon. And you believe in those trades because of your scouting departments on both sides. But that's part of building this franchise. They trust the coaches. You mentioned that. Trust D'Amico Ryans. Trust Bobby Slowick. It just seems that there's a lot of trust right now for a franchise that had, at least fan trust was probably at an all-time low for that franchise, and really one of the lowest of any franchises, between the Bill O'Brien and getting Rick Smith fired, and then Jack Easterby and that whole situation, and firing 2 coaches in 2 years. It just, to turn around everything at that level of trust in one season is crazy.
Yeah, the point you brought up about the ultimate level of betting on yourself is when Nick Caserio decided that he was going to basically their draft pick, their first round pick was the one that he was trading.
Yeah.
Because he was like, no, we're gonna be good. We'll be good. And nobody really thought they were gonna be good. I'll give Caserio credit. And maybe he know they were gonna be that good, win a playoff game, win a division good. But he thoued they were gonna be good.
No, and I get
gonna be good.
And I get that Arizona wanted the Texans pick. I'm not saying that he changed it. They said, we'll take Cleveland's. He said no. But he had confidence in doing it because he knew he was not giving away the number 1 overall.
Yeah. I think we were upset that he didn't protest, and we were upset that he did not negotiate.
Yes.
That there's a reason he was like, no. If you want that deal, I'll give you that deal because we're going to be a good team this year. I'll let you believe we're going to be a bad team. Nope, that's a great point about Caserio, man. Caserio, excuse me. All right, we come back. We'll wrap it up, put it in the oven, and play a little game of Who Said That right here on the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis on Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. All right, welcome back to the Rodcast featuring Patrick Davis. I'm Lifetime Longhorn Rod Babers. Happy Eclipse Day. Please don't stare into the eclipse without the proper eyewear. It is a Smooth Soul Monday. My man Patrick Davis, the Ideallionaire, plays jams meant to make your transition from the fun-filled, relaxing weekend to the stress-filled, hectic work week a little bit smoother. So he calls it a Smooth Soul Monday to put you in the right mindset for your Mondays, which can be a little tough on most folks out there. My man Patrick also hooks us up with our Who Said That segment as well, pulling audio from the sports world. And then based on the audio you hear, you can play along at home. You can try to figure out who said that.
Of any big man is just 7-inch difference is about it. And he's no Diddy, but he's a great guy. He's gonna give us a hard fight, but we're not gonna scout him up any differently. We're gonna stick to our game plan.
Who said that? That was DJ Burns speaking about his matchup with Zach Edey prior to their Final Four matchup this past weekend. And yet, it's actually a controversial term that's got him in trouble a little bit. People have been trying to cancel him, but definitely been critical of DJ Burns and his no Diddy comment. In response to the P. Diddy controversy, but it also has y'all got to go look it up and Google it because I'm not going to get canceled or fired on here talking about it. But there are some negative connotations with that term that is become now slang in the urban dictionary, if you will. Patrick.
Yeah, I think it fits, but DJ Burns, it fits that narrative. He's been like all like for this whole postseason run as a guy that is not necessarily caring too much about what anybody else thinks.
Nope, not at all there, because he's basically made that term go viral, and I looked it up since I've been like, oh, okay. So I won't be using the term, but he did. So there you go. Don't worry, Rob, he won't use it. I'm not trying to get canceled, but I do want to thank my man Patrick for doing a great job as always. Patrick, you are the real MVP, brother. I want to thank all you guys out there for listening, because without you, this program would suck. It would be terrible. There'll be no purpose for it. So we appreciate all your participation. Remember, the revolution will not be televised. We'll be talking about it right here on the Rodcast. We appreciate everybody. Enjoy the eclipse. Don't look right into it unless you got the proper eyewear. Everybody enjoy the evening as well. We love you guys. We mean that. Until next time, peace and hook 'em.